Hey everybody, welcome to this week's live stream. I hope you're all doing great today. So we are going to try to make a bell today, a silver bell for the Ornament Challenge. Now, I got to be honest, I haven't thought about doing anything on the lathe except for pens for a long time, so this may be challenging today. So just warning you. Now, I made a really long blank. So we got a silver blank and I cut it in half. That way I have two options. The other issue is there was a little bit of a debate on whether to go with the, let's see here. I got one here somewhere. To go with an insert or not. And originally I was like, oh, I'll just tap threads into the blank. But I do kind of think that an insert would probably be a better way to go. Maybe. It'll definitely hold better, but the problem is I didn't, insert these things beforehand. So I've got two blanks. We're going to work on one. We're basically going to kind of do two of them, sort of. I'm going to drill and glue in the insert, and that will have to wait I like to wait overnight if I'm gluing stuff in. I know 5-minute epoxy, technically you could probably work on it in 5 or 10 minutes, but you're going to get a much better glue bond. It'll fully cure if you let it sit overnight. Same thing with like CA glues and all that kind of stuff. So I could have pre-done it, but I thought let's just drill the hole. We'll glue it in. You can kind of, if anybody doesn't know how to do that, you'll get to see that. But I have the other half, and I'm just going to chuck that thing up and start turning it. So, and we'll kind of see. The other thing is this will give me, offhand, I don't have like a grand master plan on how to do this exactly, like the steps of, turn it and, do the inside, do the outside, all that kind of stuff. So this may be just kind of a trial run to see what happens. And I'm the type of person that sometimes I can't really come up with an entire plan. Like I got to ruin something first and figure out like, oh, you can't do it that way. So that may be what we find out today, and it'll be a learning experience. Now the second blank we did all kinds of stuff. So there's black in here. We added a little bit of micro starlight, so some like kind of holographic sparkle, and then a few little wisps of silver to kind of tie it into the silver bell. So I think we should be able to, even like if everything fails on the bell part, I think we should be able to do the handle today. At least this is a little bit more in my wheelhouse kind of thing. I'm trying to think if there's any other things that I should do. So anyway, it should be pretty fun though. Make a bell. Now it's not going to be huge. It's going to be kind of a smaller bell. I was debating going with a 3-inch blank, but to make two of them and all that kind of stuff, it would have been a lot of resin just for a bell that you're going to waste most of the resin on. So I thought 2-inch, and it's also going to be like a tree ornament. Like I'm making a tree ornament, not a separate bell. If I was going for like a full-size bell, I definitely would have gone for like a 3-inch blank, and it would have been a little bit more this size of the handle. This is a 1-inch blank for the handle, and that'll give me some room to kind of do a little bit more shaping. If I went with like 3/4, you really wouldn't have gotten a whole lot of material, shaping done maybe. I don't know. We maybe could have done that because like I said, the bell's going to be, I don't know. Like I said, I could have like drawn this all out and done dimensioning and all that kind of stuff. But typically, even if I do that, I still end up doing it and then redoing it because I find out like, oh, this was not a good idea. Sometimes reality changes things when you're trying to plan. So it should be pretty fun though. Like I said, I haven't done like a different type of project on the lathe for a long time. And the ornament challenge is always fun. We like to, oh, what the heck? That was weird. I switched over to the Turner's Warehouse website and I got some kind of weird thing. I don't know what I was saying. That thing, it was like a weird warning thing. The ornament challenge is fun. So here's the link if anybody needs, to know all the rules and all the different categories there are. This year they've added pens, which is cool. I actually kind of forgot about that. I might actually turn a pen like on my own, and add that and send that down. But there's all kinds of categories. If you're a beginner, they have a specific category for beginners. You can make whatever you want in that one. I think you have to be like, have been turning for less than 6 months or something. I don't know all the rules. That's why the link is there. You can look up all the rules. The big rule that you need to know is you need to have the ornament in their hands by, what is it, like November 15th or something like that? What is the timeline? November 14th. So it needs to be in Phoenix. They need to it needed to have arrived after shipping by the 14th, okay? That's the big one. That way they can get everything set up for the auctions and all that kind of stuff. There is a ton of work that goes into this. Pictures of everything, a listing of every single one of them, and coordinations. And then they also are coordinating with different stuff that they have to have everything ready for, you know, different live streams and different stuff. So give them a hand, get your ornament in on time, and or early would even be better. I usually kind of wait. I try not to like push the limits on it, but this year I'm a little bit later than normal. So anyway, should be pretty fun. You could use UV glue. I don't think I would because you can't really, you need to like, I don't, you could, I guess. I think, honestly, I think it's easier just going with 5-minute epoxy. Because even with UV glue, you still need to let it cure. Like none of these glues cure immediately, like fully cure. So if you're going to be doing something like that, like, you know, so with CA glue, I like to let it sit overnight. I mean, you could get away, you know, realistically, with like CA glue, if you're gluing tubes in and stuff. I mean, you can turn them fairly quick if you really had to. The problem is, by pushing the limits on that, unless you really have to, you're just asking for one extra thing that could go wrong. If you give the glue full cure time, you're setting yourself up for success, basically. So I like I said, I don't know for sure on UV glue what the full cure time and all that stuff is. My biggest problem is, how are you going to cure it with the UV light if it's in a hole? That's kind of the issue that I have. You can't really set it off, you know, any other way than hitting it with light. And if you are trying to glue, you know, you're going to drill a hole in this, you're going to put glue around it, and it's going to be in a hole. So how are you going to really cure it? That's my biggest concern with that. You may not cure all of it. I believe the way that UV resin works is it may kind of kick off and like kind of travel in if you can get part of it done, but that's a wild card where epoxy, you just mix it up and stick it in there. So yeah, YouTube has been doing, they've been changing a bunch of different things. UV glue works better if you're just like gluing something, you know, on it, I find. So let's see here. Who was here first? That's the first question. Michael McEwen was here first. You're the winner. And we got all kinds of people here. Vinny and Jennifer. Brian's here. Mike's here. I'm going to be kind of... Marquetta is here. And David Bingham. Yeah, it is showing like the @ things for me too. Darren's here. Cool. Who else? Bruce. Jim. Looks like Jim lost his lathe buddy. That's not fun. I don't like losing my lathe buddy. I'm scrolling. Roman's here. I saw Chad was here. Pens. Who else? Randy. And I might have missed some people, but... Oh, and Mark. I don't think I said Mark yet. So anyway, welcome to the stream, guys. Yeah, I think Marquetta's here. She was here. That's for sure. Let's check for Mark. Oh. I didn't know that. You learn something new every day. All right, so let's head over to the lathe. First thing I'm going to do is glue in the dealy bobber for the what are these called? Insert. And then, like I said, I'm just going to glue it in, set it aside, and then we're going to work on the other one and try and see, like, there's really no problem. You can just tap threads into a blank and then mount it. I'm not really that worried about that. What can happen, and especially with my lathe, I think I have some issues with my spindle bearings. I think I probably need to replace them. Or there may be some other thing. My headstock heats up quite a bit, and so the biggest problem with just tapping threads and then chucking it onto something with a blank is going to be your heat deflection in the blank. Urethanes do well with heat typically, so like Alumilite Clear and Clear Slow, it does pretty well compared to epoxy. Most epoxies have a pretty low heat threshold, so if they warm up, they start bending basically, and that's going to lead to nothing but problems. So that is going to be your biggest reason to use one of these guys. The metal is not going to deform, and that's what's holding on to your chuck thing. However, like I said, I mean, really, it should be okay for the most part. Where things can happen is you're going to be putting pressure on it while it's turning, and you're drilling stuff out and shaping all that kind of stuff. You're putting sideways pressures on it. Technically, it could move a little bit, but I think it's going to be okay. I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. We'll see. I really like being able to just tap threads into something and not have, an extra thing. The one big drawback to this is that now I got to drill a 1/2 inch hole to fit the outside of this thing, which is going to expand the top of the bell maybe a little bit, a few sixteenths, let's say. Whereas if I'm just tapping threads, I'm going to just tap something a little bit bigger than a 3/8. I need to look up. I have a chart that shows you like what drill hole to put for threads. Much easier if you're using the metric system. You just subtract the pitch. It's a little harder with fractional stuff, but so you can get away with a little bit less like waste, or the hole can be smaller. I don't know if that's going to make that much difference though. So let's see here. I think that's about it. So I don't think I have any other announcements. So we went out of town last week, and it was fun. We went down to Vegas for kind of like, we were actually celebrating birthdays. We went to the Alanis Morissette concert. Gretchen wanted to see her, and it was pretty good. I'm not a huge Alanis fan. Like, it's not like, like, oh my God, I got to see Alanis. But she is, I will say, she probably performs better. Like, we both were talking about it. The performance, like the sound, like the quality of whatever, was almost better than the CD, because like, back in the 90s, everybody had the Alanis CD, and like, we enjoyed the songs better live, honestly. So it was pretty cool. The other thing that we did down in Vegas, they have like a race track thing. So they have like the NASCAR racetrack, and there's a NASCAR racing thing, but they have like just a track for like cars, as well as a Baja truck track thing down there where you can just go and drive. And so for the like on track, it's more like I don't know what you call that, like GT racing, like just kind of normal cars, not like necessarily race cars. But you could drive like Lamborghinis, Ferraris, Porsches, like all these like supercars. And it was funny because I ended up picking, it was really tough. There was like 20 or 30 cars that you could pick from, and like they all were pretty cool. I kind of eliminated things that like I see all the time, like Corvettes. They're cool, but whatever. Like, I know people that have Corvettes. That's not really that exciting. So like Ferraris and Lambos would have been cool. I ended up picking an Aston Martin. I was like, James Bond, sweet. But I decided to pick the one, and I didn't know this at the time until I actually got in. And the guy's like, hey, this is an actual race car version. And there was like all kinds of stuff with that, and it didn't have like a normal like speedometer and tachometer like a normal car would, and he didn't tell me that, oh, these lights mean that's when you shift and all this stuff. So it was a little bit of a kind of a hairy thing on the racetrack, but it was pretty cool. I hit like 130 on this racetrack on the straightaway. That was pretty neat. To be honest, the most fun part was actually what you do, like a discovery lap, and like there's a professional race car driver. We're in a Porsche Cayenne, like a SUV. And this dude was going around corners in this SUV way faster than I was like ready to do in a race car. So that was actually pretty fun because you knew that he knew what he was doing. But man, he did this track. I'm pretty sure that guy beat like wrecked my time in a SUV on this track. But the Baja trucks were the best. So I highly recommend if you're into like, you know, off-road racing and all that kind of stuff. This was much easier. I found that these cars, like I am not a race car driver, obviously. I was so slow. But with the Baja trucks, I was pretty awesome at that because I'm used to four-wheeling and stuff. Those were really cool. You got to jump them and all this stuff. So it was a pretty fun trip overall. We got to see some friends because we used to live there. Yeah, James Bond. I know. I picked the Aston Martin Vanquish. That turned out to be a race car, and it was way harder than anything else. Although, to be fair to myself, one of the cool things about this is they actually show you times for like the day and like track, you know, times like overall. They rank everybody that's ever done this, and realistically for this car, I wasn't even that bad, and I felt like I didn't know, like for half the time, you pay for a number of laps, however many, and I ended up doing eight laps. So I needed to figure out how to drive this race car in eight laps. The cool thing is though, you actually have a pro in the car with you, and they're telling you like shift or brake or do this and that, you know, so it is much help. It's not as hard as it maybe sounds. But I tell you what, when you're going like, you know, 100 and then you're coming into like hairpin turns on a track and you don't have experience doing that stuff, especially like when you're used to driving a Tacoma, it was a little bit hairy. Like I felt like I was driving really slow on this, and I totally missed like all the, you know, you want to hit like certain angles. They tell you how to hit the corners and stuff, and I was not good at it. I got lapped or passed the first lap, and then I started like passing other people, but it was ridiculous. So yeah, it was pretty fun. So if you're ever in Vegas, so it's called Speed Vegas. It's way south at the south end of town. It was worth it. Now, I will also say, if you're like, I don't know if I really want to drive cars and do all this stuff. The one thing that you can, and we didn't do this, but I really wish we would have. If we go back, we're definitely doing this. The other thing that they do on the track is there's a drift car. So that's like when you're like peeling out kind of sideways, you know, around corners and stuff like that. They've got a professional F1 drift racer, a couple of them actually. And so there's this drift car that goes on the track as well. And this thing is like a Dodge Charger Hellcat, like uncorked, so it's loud. And then it looks like a cop car, and it's hilarious. But this thing, every once in a while, people pay to do like a lap or two in this, and you don't get to drive it, you just ride along. And this thing comes ripping onto the track sideways, and you know, he's just peeling out around all the corners and all that stuff. I think that is probably the best money spent at that track, like just doing a ride along in the drift car, because it was just every time that thing went on the track, everybody's like, oh, I gotta watch this. Like, and you can watch what's going on the track. You can't really, there's not a very good view of the Baja track, which kind of sucked. It's pretty cool, you know, it's dirt and you're in like a real true Baja race truck. Like this thing it's a retired, I don't know what the name of the race is that goes through Vegas, but it was a retired actual, you know, all of these things are all retired actual Baja trucks. And it's cool. Like, I mean, you jump these things and you're getting like 6 feet of air, like as long as you drive it good enough. But it, you know, like you're jumping them and it's pretty cool. So definitely go check that out if you're down in Vegas. It was well worth the money, I felt. Especially if you're into race cars, like racing. I mean, like I said, there was a plethora of cars you could choose. Like pretty much any exotic car that you can think of was there. And you get to get in these things and just rip them on a track. Yeah. So I didn't roll the Baja truck, and I didn't go into the wall on the track. So I feel like I won. So anyway, enough of that craziness. Let's head over to the lathe and see what we can do. So we're making a bell. I never made a bell before. All right, so I got my chuck set up here. So this is pretty simple. All we're going to do is we're going to chuck it up. We're going to drill a hole in one end, and we're going to mount this guy in there for the first step here. Get the chuck open here. I'm just going to drop it all the way down in. I love the Easy Chuck. Have I said that before? Oh my God, I love this thing. Okay. So again, what you want to do is drill out a 1/2 inch hole for these guys, and you want to get it. You don't want this thing poking out the end really. So you don't, but you also really don't necessarily want it like super deep. So it's definitely worth you know, doing a measurement. I feel like these are also like a 3/4. Yeah, so you want to drill in about 3/4 inch. I actually have my drill bit, I think, marked for these guys. Sometimes it rubs off though. Yeah. And I recommend, so you might look at this and say, you know, it seems like a Forstner bit would be a really smart idea. And I've done that before. The problem is, because you know, you'd have a flat hole and all that kind of stuff. The only issue that I have with that though is having just a dead flat hole and then trying to glue this thing in. What ends up happening is excess glue kind of gets into your thread hole. So I actually prefer using a standard bit because it's going to have that little angle, you know, the point part, and that gives your glue, excess glue, a little reservoir to kind of hang out in. So I think that's a better way to go on these actually. Just turned into kind of a mess when I would do it the other way. I think I've only done it, I only did it like once and I was like, oh, that's not really too awesome. All right, so I'm going to just double check this. I'm actually going to pull out my, I don't really care if this is like a perfect, oh, I guess it's a little bit less, is this thing zeroed? Yeah, it's a little less than 3/4 it looks like, so 0.63. And obviously the easiest way to deal with this is just line it up. I do want to have that point. Just stick the thing on the drill bit and then mark it. And like I said, you don't want it sticking out really. A little bit deeper than the surface is fine. And this goes for like bottle stoppers and whatever. I'm actually going to move you guys over because you're like right in my way. I'm just going to do that. There we go. Oh, and I need to get the chat open here because I can't see what you're saying to me. What are you guys saying? And feel free to tell me if I'm doing something stupid because, like I said, I haven't really... we were out of town and I've been catching up all week, so it's not like I really put together a massive plan for this whole thing. So if anybody has any suggestions, feel free to let me know. Because, you know, I don't really have a plan here. I mean, on this, I don't really need help, but, you know, just drilling this thing out. But when we get into the other stuff, feel free to let me know that there's a better way to do things. And you could, if you really wanted to, you could like hit this with the center drill. It just eliminates any like wandering. I don't really find that necessary, but if you wanted to, absolutely no problem. Now, one thing that I might also say, so with the bell, and we're just going to pause for a second here. With the bell, you kind of want to have a little dangly in there, right? And so there's two ways you could go about doing this. You could like, I think the simplest way would be to leave some meat in there. And use like an eyelet hook. I don't know, is that what they're called? Screw eye. Use like an eyelet. I'm going to get a bigger one than normal just so you guys can see what I'm talking about. But you'd want to go with a smaller one. Use like an eyelet and then just, you know, screw that in. I would use a much way smaller one, obviously. But I just wanted so you guys can see what I'm talking about. And then screw that up into the bell thing, and then, you know, attach a little dangle doohickey. Now it's not going to ring, obviously, it's plastic, the bell is, but you know, it'd be kind of cool to have that. So that would probably be the easiest way to go on this. Now the other way that you could do this is you could not really worry about leaving meat for that eyelet and then just screw it into the handle. All right, so you know, we're going to drill a hole in this, we're going to put threads in it, you know, we're doing this one, but you could just mount that little screw thing to your handle, because I'm going to put threads on this, screw that in, and it would all be, you know, together. I actually kind of like that a little bit better, but if you're going to be drilling your, you know, mounting this thing in there, you don't really, like, I can see having a hole go all the way into the threads, if that makes sense. So our bell, like, we don't need extra meat in there. But I think having this little, you know, this thing, that makes it a little bit more difficult. Like, not having this spacer, I can just drill a hole however far I want if I'm just tapping threads into the blank. And I don't care, you know, when I start coming in with the hollowing tool, I don't care if I hit the hole, because I can just mount it to this. So I don't know if that made a whole lot of sense, but initially when I was thinking about this, not using a insert, I was thinking about just doing it that way, where you just mount the little dangle onto the handle, into the handle kind of thing. So just something to kind of think about. There's a couple different ways. The good news is you don't necessarily even need to like totally choose right now, I don't think. You could say, oh, okay, I want to mount it to the actual bell itself, but then if you actually did kind of cut in, you know, into the hole, you would still have, you know, you could still mount it to the handle most likely, even if you use this. So just, I don't know, just a couple of little things that I actually did think of ahead of time. Now I'm just going to grab a little 3/8/16 bolt so I can get this thing out. I'm going to test it. Looks like I'm not deep enough yet, so I want to go in a little bit further. Hopefully that's good. It's always good to, whew, that was loud. Blow that out, make sure you're not, just a little bit more. Just a little. Just tap it in. Tap, tap, tap it in. And like I said, if it's a little bit below, a little bit, I would actually kind of prefer that maybe. I definitely don't want it to be proud. All right, so at this point, it's so close, but it is still proud, and I don't really want that, right? You may have to, you know, use like a metal type thing to check and make sure. And you don't have to be this crazy about it, really. This is a bit overkill. I'm just showing you kind of, that's perfect. I like that. I think, yeah, where it's just shy of the mouth of that thing, or whatever, the lip. All right, so 5-minute epoxy. Can you guys see the, yeah. No, you got some of those eyelets. Yeah, I got a whole, I went to, I think I got these at Harbor, actually, I think I got these on Amazon. I got tired of just having like one or two. I got like the 50,000 set. I've got every size I ever wanted at this point of those eyelets. I had a few. I'd buy like this little pack of whatever, and then I'd lose the pack, and so I was like, I'm just gonna get this big thing. All right, so we got our part A, or whatever. Oh man, this thing's stuck. Okay, that thing is really stuck. Grab some pliers to get my cap off this thing. Jeez. There we go. Got it. And this is just your, whatever standard 5-minute epoxy. Get it at Home Depot or Lowe's or wherever. I like to go to the Ace Hardware, personally. We finally got one in Carson. And it's like significantly better every time. Every time. You go to Home Depot and nobody knows what's going on. Or Lowe's. They just seem unhelpful there. Ace, though, you walk in, they're all smiles, they're all happy. So if you got an Ace and you haven't been in there, go try it out. They got all kinds of good stuff there. Let me know. Report back on your Ace Hardware. Back in the day when I was growing up here, there was True Value. Do you guys remember True Value? Is that still a thing? That was like the greatest hardware store ever. So Mike's got a question. Why have the handle unscrew? Why not? I think it's cool. I tend to like those kind of mechanical types of things. If I got this, like, I don't know, like I was into Transformers and all that, like it's just kind of fun for me. You don't have to though, obviously. You could just make a giant bell all out of one blank or whatever. You could glue it together if you wanted, but I think it's kind of cool. One advantage I would maybe say also, you would run into some mounting issues if you didn't do it this way, I think. Because you're going to have this like long handle. And somehow you have to turn out the inside of the bell and then flip it and then turn, or, whatever. Somehow, you got to do two different sides of this thing. So, I mean, I guess you could mount it by the handle, but that's not the best way to mount a thing either on a lathe, by the skinny thing. So, I don't know. You could maybe mount it with like a thicker chunk and then come way in and shape the handle. I don't know. I'm not an expert at turning, but it just seems like having two pieces is probably going to be an easier way to deal with stuff on the lathe and then just screw it together. Now, one thing you could do is actually, and I'm probably not going to do this necessarily, but you could do them separate and then screw them together or even glue it together or whatever, and then, turn them into each other. If you really want like a perfect union. This is going to be a pretty small ornament though. I don't know that it really calls for that kind of stuff necessarily, but you could do it either way. Like I said, my main thing is I really enjoy, even like when I do stoppers, there's like a lot of people that just absolutely cannot stand, like I'm literally doing something illegal, that I'll leave the threads, like you can see the threads, especially when I cut them by hand. I think it's cool when you can actually see like the mechanical stuff where you screw in where the screw threads are. I just find it fascinating personally, to kind of be able to see the inner workings. Some people just hate it. They're like, oh my God, that's not even art. You are just ruining life. And I understand that, I get it, but I don't care. Like personally, it doesn't bother me that you can see the threads. In fact, I like it personally. And I like to just kind of wipe this away from the hole so that I don't get glue in the threads. Now, if you ever do get glue, and it happens, you know, especially squeeze out from the bottom. If you get a little bit of glue in the threads, just if you have a 3/8/16 tap, you just run it kind of quick and it'll clean out your threads. You can get, and that's a standard tap that you can just go down to wherever. You can get it on like Amazon, just probably get one. Or you can just get like a tap and die set, which I kind of recommend having on hand. It's not a bad idea to do that. Typically, if I'm doing this, what I would actually do is bring up my tailstock just to kind of hold the thing in place. It's probably not going anywhere, but a lot of times I'll do that. Today, we don't need to worry about it, but it's an easy way to kind of hold that thing in there till it, like, you know, for like 5 minutes till it locks down. I'm not that worried. I don't think it's going anywhere, but so that's as simple as it goes for, you know, if you want to make bottle stoppers or any of that kind of stuff. That's all you want to do. Just glue that guy into the end and you're good to go. Now for this one, we're going to do it a little bit differently. I don't know if it matters. Go this way. So I need to look up real quick. So what I'm going to do on this one is we're just going to drill in and tap threads onto this thing. Make sure that's running pretty true there. Now I need to look up and see what drill bit I want to use. And we'll be using a 3/8/16 tap for this. I actually went down and I have a 3/8/16 tap. I didn't have a, let's see, where is it? Literally, I just bought this thing. I didn't have the die. So you can get a little set like this. It's got, you know, it wasn't that expensive. It was like 40 bucks maybe. I think you could, I got this at Lowe's. It's just down the street here. But you could get, like, if you just need a 3/8/16 tap and die, most likely you can just buy them individually, you know, like on Amazon or somewhere, and it's going to be a lot cheaper than that. And the quality is probably good enough. Like, it's not that big of a deal. But this one looked pretty good, and it comes with like the tap handle and all that kind of stuff. So that's nice. I'm just opening this package because I hadn't even opened it yet. Now I don't need the handle and all that stuff for this because I've got all my stuff for doing the pens, and that's what I'll be using. Oh, shoot. These things aren't round. That's wonderful. I didn't even think about that. Hopefully this fits into the Neil's niche thing. And I saw you guys were talking about Neil's niche. Did anybody ask Chad about that? I have 13. Gotta find the right one. 3/8/16. Just need to double check, make sure this is 3/8/16. Hopefully this is the right thing. Should match up to hopefully this works. Before we even start, I think I'm gonna, okay, so I got this chart here, and what I need to do is find 3/8/16, and it tells, now this is kind of for metal, so there's maybe a little bit of wiggle room, but it's saying to drill, so it says, and you can get these things all over for free online. My dad had this from somewhere. So you look up your size. We want to, have 3/8/16, and then this tells you what drill size you want to use. So 5/16 or so. Plastic has a lot more leeway than metal, but I'm just going to follow this little guide thing. It's 5/16, is that right? Got to pay attention to what I'm doing here. 5/16, okay. But in the past, I've used this and everything worked out fine, so that's good. 3/16, where's 5/16? Come on. There it is, 5/16. Okay. Man, we're getting a little bit of weather this weekend, so that's exciting. They can just keep dropping some snow in the mountains for us. All right, now I want to go in, again, on this one, I don't really care if I drill in. I'm going to drill deeper than I need to, basically, on this. I don't care if there's a hole on the inside because I'm planning to attach the little dangle to the actual handle itself, so it doesn't really matter if there's a hole in there. So I'm going to, is that right? Man, seems like a really small hole. 3/8. It's the right size. Oh, that's why it's half. I got the wrong tap, guys. I'm like, God, that's a really big hole. Okay. This is why it takes me like 2 or 5 times to get something. That looks a lot more reasonable. That looks reasonable right there. Okay. So I'm going to go in. One thing I'm going to look at before we even start is the main thing that matters here is I want to make sure that I'm getting enough threads, because I want this thing to bury, so I want the threads to go all the way, deep enough to hold it on there. Now 3/4 is probably plenty, just because we know how deep those inserts go. Get away with even less. So I'm going to put a little mark on my drill here. Let's see here. And if you want, you could even just hold this thing up. You don't want to do it by the point. You want to do it by the cutting edge on the side here. We can kind of, eyeball it, or you can measure it, whichever way you want to go. I think if I go to like here, I'm going deeper. The other thing that you want to think about when tapping threads is your tap. Typically, you really want to look at your tap. This thing's tapered quite a bit, actually. So I think I'm actually going to extend that line, because my full threads probably don't even start until like here. So I'm going to have to add, like 1/2 inch or something like that, or 3/8, like 3/8 extra before the threads are really full width. You can buy bottom taps if you want. Like I said, I don't have. Oh, I actually might have one. Kind of curious to see. Pretty sure I have a 3/8/16. Maybe not. I had a 3/8/16 because I used to do these for bottle stoppers. Yeah, okay. Yeah. So I'm pretty sure this is a bottom tap. Let's see, does it say on there? Doesn't really say. But I don't know if you guys can see the difference. This is the one that is tapered. This one is a bottoming. It's still a little tapered, but there's less of a taper. The threads are pretty full width, like almost at the end. So that's something to keep in mind. Just to make sure that everything is, these are right. These are the same. I want to read these things because there are some, my dad had some taps that were like a different 3/8 NC. Just want to read this thing, yeah. Okay, so these are the same. I'm going to use this tap then. Hopefully everything will be good. Now we can use the, let's see here. So I need to drill a hole. I'm gonna, like I said, I don't care if there's a hole that goes into the thing. So I'm gonna just make sure everything's good to go. Where did my marker go? Good Lord. I lost my marker, guys. It's not very easy to mark things when you don't have a marker. There it is, right in front of my face. I'm gonna go to like there, and I think we'll be good. So let's begin drilling. Let's see, does anybody have anything? No contact or answering calls, geez. Oh, that's cool, mounting chucks on the pegboard. I like that. Ace has everything. I know, they're great. Spring clip to Narnia. Nice, yeah. Yeah, I get my, well, I didn't get that glue, that 5-minute epoxy. I get the 15 from Turner's, though. All right, we got a hole. Now we can use the tapping doohickeys. Now, technically, you know, you could. It wouldn't be the proper way to do it at all, but you could get away with, if you don't have all the tapping equipment for like the pens and all that stuff, you can get away with just sticking the tap in your chuck. I've done it. A better way to go is to get a handle thing and then put your point. There's a little hole in the back of these guys. That'll work, but you have to keep putting pressure on it. So that's why the setup, the Neil's Niche tool set thing, it's so good because it really solves a lot of problems that make things a lot more difficult if you don't have that tool. But you can get away with doing things differently. You don't have to buy that tool necessarily. It's just, I mean, it's like way, way better if you're tapping on your lathe. So, for anybody that doesn't know what this thing is, I don't know if you guys, I don't think you can see what I did. I'm going to take it apart again. So it's this little system that goes into your tailstock. Comes with a taper. You got this little handle thing that spins on a bar, and then you put in, this is a little tap holder. You're gonna mount that guy onto the spinny bob. Okay, so that'll hold your tap. And there's different sizes for all kinds of different size taps and all that stuff. You just mount your tap. Ooh, that might not fit. Okay, yeah, it does. Mount your tap in there. Now you've got something that you can grab onto spinning on the same, whatever, plane. And everything works great. It's really wonderful. Now, you don't necessarily need cutting fluid, but that's just a little WD-40. It ain't gonna hurt nothing. Now, let's see if you guys can see. I need a camera crew is what I need. Oh, I need to fix my battery there. So I go in 3 and then I back off, and that just kind of breaks the swarf stuff, the little ribbons, so it's not jamming up. think I'm at the bottom pretty much. And you don't want to be doing this with the lathe on. Do this all manually. Things will get out of control quick. Okay, so we have threads. Now, let's just double check and make sure that everything went as planned. Make sure this thing threads properly, make sure we use the right tap, but also I'm checking to make sure that I have full contact all the way down. It's mounted well, sort of running true. Oh, almost lost my tap. Okay, so we got that half done. Now, we have a way to mount this guy, and we can do all of our shaping on the outside, but also hollow everything out. Now, this is longer than I need, most likely. One thing I didn't really think about, we can make it kind of a longer bell, but it probably does not need to be this long. So I'm probably going to take a good chunk of this off. I think what I'm going to do is look at dimensions. So at the widest, I'm gonna turn this down first and get it running true. And I want to see what my diameter is, and then kind of look at, like, okay, based on the widest part that this thing can be, how deep, how long do I want the bell? Hopefully I can kind of get an idea of what that curve and length should be. The bottom is obviously going to be the widest. So we'll just kind of work this thing out. Now, I'm thinking that we probably have about a ½ inch or so, maybe even like a full inch extra than I really want. But I can deal with that when we get to it. Murphy does that for giggles, yeah. Let's see, oh, I'm missing lots of stuff. Make a Morse taper 2 spring-loaded center. Oh, that's cool. That would help a lot. Joan. Tim Costello's in the house. Oh, sounds like Neil's niches. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what's going on, guys. We're gonna have to dig into that. Okay, so we got that ready. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bring up the tailstock. I'm gonna get my handy dandy Easy Wood tools. Let's see, did I put the center? I like this guy. It's got a little bit of a center point that I don't put a lot in, but it's a wider. I don't really like the points unless you actually drill in like a 60-degree cone. I like this thing better because it holds it in place better. But I keep the tip way down in there so that it's not marring up. It doesn't matter in this case so much, but anytime you can use tailstock support, you're better off. All right, so now we can bring the camera back in here. Like I said, first step, I'm just going to true this up real quick so that I can take a little bit of a measurement and see where we're at. Get my dust collector in position. And again, hopefully I'll do good on this, but this one may be the prototype, the first run where I'm like, oops, I should have done something differently, And we'll see how the threads hold up. I've made a number of, what the heck, bottle stoppers. So I want to switch to I always do better on larger blanks with the negative rate cutters. This one's a standard. I love the negative rate cutters because you just don't have to worry about anything. We will not have any weirdness going on. Just need to get my, man, this thing is like bent or something. I don't know what's going on with my little screwdriver there. All right. All the shavings are going the opposite direction. Come on, get in there. So has anyone in the chat not used the negative rate cutters yet? And you turn, you know, resin blanks? I'm just kind of curious. I find personally for pens, especially if you're doing the kitless ones where it's not a tube, you don't have like that kind of sturdy, rigid, you know, tube holding it. I find that makes it work a little bit better, but when you're doing like the kitless things where you kind of got a blank, or maybe if you're doing diamond painting pens, I actually find the standard cutters work a little bit better, because they cut. Otherwise, what I find is you get a little bit more vibration because you're doing a lot more of a scraping action with the negative rakes. And that just tends to add a little bit more force being applied to the blank, which causes a little bit more chatter. Okay, so we didn't really take off a whole lot of material there. I think we're probably still pretty close to 2 inch, a little bit under. Yeah, 1.91 or so. So 2 by 3, how long is this blank? 3.21. I know this is just a plastic thing, but it works fine for just taking quick measurements. So we're going to be taking it down all the way in. On this end, it's going to be skinny and then flare out down this way, and then we're going to hollow it out. So I think like a 2.5 inch bell length. Probably work. You could go for like even, like 2 inch by 2 inch. But you're going to have to come in a lot to get to the handle. You don't have to make it the exact size of the handle and all that stuff, but you know, you definitely want to have that kind of bell shape. So I really think 2.5 is probably about where I want to be. One thing you could also do if you want to get into like designing stuff is use like the golden ratio. Which is, that doesn't really work in this instance probably. Let's see, what is the golden ratio? I forget. 1.6. So about 1.6. So 2 times 1.6. Yeah, that'd be like 3.2. Although that is what this thing is, I believe. Huh. My only problem is, for being a Christmas ornament, if the bell part's 3.2, how long is the handle going to be and how big is that ornament going to be? So we're going for kind of smaller on this one. So let's go with like, I don't know, now that I think about it, 2x2 might actually be about where I want to be. Let's split the difference and go 2 1/4. If I had my metal thing, I would just mark it with that, but. So we're gonna cut off right there. We get to use another fun tool. You guys are in the market for a parting tool. It's not new at this point, but the Easy Wood Tools parting tool is awesome. The first one was not so hot. It didn't really work nearly as well. But their second iteration is on the money. Just want to make sure I got that thing lined up pretty well. Give myself a little bit more room there. Let's see. Going a little fast for parting. Wasn't really interested in catching that. All right. So yeah, they're for resin blanks. That parting tool is awesome. So I'm just gonna kind of clean this up a little bit. Let me raise my tool rest back to where I want it. Just to kind of get things good to go. So first thing I want to do is I think I want to shape this. I'm not sure if there's like a protocol for this. I'm going to ask you guys. I don't think it matters in this case. I'm just going to say that right now. But my instinct is to bring up the tailstock support and get the shaping done on this thing on the outside. Then go in and I'm going to drill it out and then, you know, shape the inside of the bell. That seems like the most logical thing for me. Let me know what you guys think. The alternative would be to like hollow it. Is there any advantage? I can't see any advantage to hollowing, because I don't even know what the shape is first, and leaving the meat on, you know. But I really don't think that's the right way to go. But I thought I'd ask you guys, why not? See what you guys have to say about it. So the old one had a weird way. I have to be honest, I actually do have the old ones. I think I really didn't like it. I want to say that the new Chad might actually know more about this than me. It had to do with the way that the cutter like mounted into the thing. Like at this point, you buy like the whole. There's like a whole doohickey thing that you buy. I think I have an extra. Might be easier to see. I'm pretty sure I bought an extra one of those. Maybe not. Well, I can't find it. So you unscrew these two things, and like the whole piece, this whole chunk of metal that goes in all the way, is just, you toss that and then put a new one in. In the past, I think you just replaced this little chip thing, the carbide piece, and it like would pop out and do weird stuff. The new one is just rock solid, and it's just great because I find that if you're using a traditional, now if you don't have like a grinder set up and all that stuff, then a traditional parting tool is going to be useless to you in the first place. But what I find is you get a little bit more heat because you got solid material. My normal parting tools, I'd have to like resharpen them a lot. If I was parting off something like this, I would have had to sharpen it. With the carbide, it just, and you can just bury it because the design of this thing, the carbide tip, I don't know if you guys can really see this. The carbide tip itself is wider than the shaft. So you can just bury, and I didn't really even have to take 2 cuts. I just get a little freaked out when you're like 2 inches into something. But as long as you're holding everything safe and you're not like wiggling the tool, if you plunge in straight, you can take it, you could plunge straight through a 4-inch or whatever, any size thing. And it, like I said, the carbide stays sharper way longer. I've never replaced, I could have sworn that I bought a replacement for that thing already, just to have it on hand if I needed it. But I mean, it's been years and I haven't replaced that. Now I don't part things off like, oh, here it is. Here it is. So yeah, you get the whole chunk. I thought I had one. It was hanging up on my thing. But I haven't replaced it yet. I don't part off a lot of stuff, but I mean, for the amount of things that I had, over like the year or two, or I've had it for years at this point. I've never replaced it. I can't even imagine how much sharpening I would have had to done. It just works good on resin, especially, I find. If you already have a parting tool, there's no reason to buy another one. But if you're set up with grinders and all that stuff, but for folks that don't have a grinding setup, it works great. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Shape the outside. Bone Crusher's here. Welcome. Yeah, the tip's wider than the shaft. Tardiness? Oh no, I'm sorry to hear that. You're not tardy, you're just right in time. All we did on the first one, we glued in. I didn't pre-do the, we were talking about it, and there's 2 ways to go. You can do the insert. I just tapped threads into the blank on this one, so I figured, okay, we'll just glue in an insert. I got this thing for backup, and I'll just finish stuff tomorrow. But this one is just, I tapped threads into the blank itself, so I figured we could get started. And worst case scenario, because I haven't done this before, and I sure as heck haven't turned anything but a pen on my lathe for a long time, I have a feeling that the way that I work, I'm gonna have to screw this one up, figure out what I should have done, and then use the other one. But we'll have to see. So we're just getting, let's lock the tailstock down. How about that? We're just getting going, really. So I'm going to shape this guy now. I've got a 1-inch blank. This is way wider than I need for the handle, but it'll give me lots of room. If I do want to kind of flare things out, it's not going to be super crazy, but I might put a little bit of a, you know, something going on. But I'm thinking, you know, the base of this, I could probably go down to like 3/4 or so. I honestly, I probably could have just used a pen blank size for this, but I wanted to make sure that I had enough. So maybe go down to like a 3/4 inch and then kind of taper up and maybe even put a little bit of a bump or something in there. And then maybe just come in, give it like a kind of a cove, and then kind of come wider at the top and have like kind of a little button top kind of thing. That'll also give me room to drill a hole in. Now the other thing that I have, actually, you know what we might do? Yeah, that might actually be pretty cool. Stainless Bottle Stoppers just came out with new decorative loops, pretty much specifically for ornaments. And this would be pretty awesome. So do I have their old one? Yeah, so I got a picture of it. So that's how their old decorative loop was. And it really wasn't meant to be like a Christmas ornament decorative loop. It was like for like tool handles and stuff. So, you know, that's not like the most awesome Christmas ornament type thing. So they redesigned their decorative, well, they may still have those, but they have these guys now. And I think that would be pretty cool on the end. So I would have to keep it on, so I'd basically have, I'd use the die to put, you know, threads, like the external threads or whatever, on one end that would screw into the bell. And then we would drill on the other end and tap threads into the other side to mount this guy, which actually kind of works because then I can mount that thing to my chuck, the universal whatever mandrel thing, using those threads and then have tailstock support. So that's pretty sweet. So I think that's what we're going to do. I almost forgot. They sent these things so early to me that I was like, oh, cool. And I totally forgot they had them. All right, so let's start turning. Let's stop talking. Less talking, more action, huh? What do you guys think? But, you know, we got to think about this stuff. Got to think about it. Oh, well, I appreciate it. I hope you can catch, you know, we always do the replays if you miss and you want to watch. I know it's kind of hard. It's a lot more fun to be like engaged in like the chat and all that stuff live. But if you miss the live and want to kind of see it, the nice thing is, and I mean, I don't know. I don't really care about YouTube algorithms. If I did, I would not just do live streams because that'll pretty much kill your channel right there. I always tell people, you know, if you want to just catch the replays, I do a lot of talking and explaining of things and messing around. So I always say just crank it up to like, you know, 2, the replay speed. And just kind of, you know, check in where you want to see stuff and just kind of skip forward on the rest of the stuff. But we always enjoy it when you come live. So, I don't, like I said, did anybody respond about the negative rate cutter thing? I'm wondering if anybody had let's see. I would imagine most of you guys already have the negative rate cutters, but I mean, it just, for doing stuff like this, look at those ribbons. I just love them. I still remember, I was at the Portland, this was many years ago at this point, pre-COVID. I was at the Portland AAW conference, and Chris over at Easywood Tools was like, check this out. He was like acting all weird. And he had like, it was like he had these like cutters that were like in his like trench coat jacket, and he's like, I got the stuff, and it was it was like kind of weird. But he showed me these things, and it was crazy because you literally one-handed. I'm gonna back up. There's no way I would do this with the standard cutters on any blank, any time. Hopefully this is wide enough. One hand. You can't catch, you don't get catches with this thing. It literally, I could turn one-handed. So if you struggle with catches or any of that stuff, another thing that happens is like, these little bars are not very wide, so they tend to kind of roll sometimes, especially when you're moving them. You can kind of, you know, and so honestly, half the time I actually just put it on its edge, so I don't have to worry about it, and turn with a little bit of a rake. I don't do that usually with the negatives. I find they cut better if it's flat, but with the standard cutters, I would get catches because it would like kind of roll a little bit, and these things, man, you cannot get a catch. And for most of the things that I do, it wasn't that big of a deal. Like, I don't really find that you need to use carbide for most pen blanks, you know, resin stuff. But they are nicer. They're going to eliminate oopsies. And they definitely work way better on like those terrible material blanks, like real acrylic blanks and polyester resin brittle stuff. It'll tame that for sure. But where I really love these things is for hollowing. So I'm actually excited about this bell because for hollowing, this was a game changer for me. Because I hated hollowing. I couldn't stand it. But we'll pull out the #1 hollower. And again, you don't have to worry. I would always get catches on the insides of things, and I'm like white knuckled, like just waiting for a catch. I was probably hitting my attack point was probably at the wrong thing. But if you don't have perfect turning skills, like I don't, these negative rake cutters for resin, they just make everything, whoa, get me in the face. They just make everything so much more fun. And you can make cool videos with ribbons flying everywhere. It's like silly string. Chris is here. What's up, man? I'm getting my lathe buddy all dirty. Jeez. Oh, we lost the lathe buddy. It fell off. The only problem is this stupid Laguna sign thing on the front of my lathe is like aluminum or plastic, or I don't know. My magnets they still stick, but if you blow at it, it's gonna fall off. Trying to think about the shape here. I think I've got this pretty good. I want it to kind of come down, not too tapered out at the top, and then kind of flare a lot more at the bottom. Look at how smooth that goes. All right, guys, we're gonna get you in for a little bit of a close-up here. Here's another thing that, this is just kind of random, but I tend to wipe off my cutters with my thumb, and the negative rake ones don't cut your finger off. If you try to do that with the standard cutters, they're way sharper, and I get like all kinds of cuts on my thumbs. So that's another reason. You just don't stick your finger where it shouldn't be. You don't have to worry about that, but it's pretty bright. I'm gonna actually turn this down, the light, a little bit. But that thing's looking pretty cool. Oh, got a little crazy there. I think it's gonna be a pretty neat silver. I mean, this thing isn't even close to polished or anything, and it's looking pretty wicked. So it looks like we did, I probably could have waited even longer, but it looks like we did get some of that kind of, I don't know what you call it, just like effects by, if I would have just poured this like right away, it would just be all kind of like the same thing. I think we got a little bit of swirling action going. One thing I'm gonna do real quick here though, I'm gonna hit it with a little bit of water just to kind of give it a little tease, you know? Because I'm curious too. See how this looks. A little bit of water on it. Oh yeah. I think that's gonna be pretty sweet. So this is the Jungin, Eye Candy Jungin, the silver pearl powder. This stuff is awesome. I'm actually really excited to use it for something like this because it works great for pens, but I think there's so many other uses that the Jungin can have. Can't wait to hollow this thing. Roman's working on some St. Jude stuff. Nice. Oh, I lost. Oh God, I lost the chat, guys. Hold on. I pushed the wrong button. Yeah, you can put the lathe buddy in the washing machine. It's pretty awesome. I mean, it is a little dirty, but what I meant was that I got shavings all over it, and I don't want that, you know. Nice and smooth. Now we're starting to get a little bit better bell shape. Now another thing we can do is actually kind of curl it a little bit at the bottom, just like a hair, or even put a little like a bead on the bottom of it. That would be pretty sweet. What do you guys think about a little bead? I always hate beads because they suck to sand, but I think it'd be kind of neat. Huh. I'm gonna pull out the beading tool, guys. We're not even gonna mess around. We're gonna put a 1/4 inch bead on this sucker. This is called designing on the fly. So I'm gonna, I lost the tiniest Allen wrench on the planet. Okay. Where did that thing go? Oh God. I heard it hit concrete, I think. Put some of those in there. How about that? Huh. Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to find that. I'm going to have to open up some new something. Where do I get another? I usually have a lot of those things. Where the heck did I put them all? I guess it comes with the tools, huh? Not the cutters. Well, I've got like 50 of these things. I don't know where all the Allen wrenches went. Oh, I found it. Woo! We were gonna have to cancel Christmas. All right. So these are the beading cutters from Easy Wood Tools. I don't know if you can see that or not. Can't get my glasses on to actually see. I'm sure see. So that'll be kind of fun, I think. And they just fit on your like square, the rougher square ones. What do you guys think about a little bit of a bead? Ah, taped inside the instructions. Oh yeah, change inserts over the lathe, buddy. That's a good idea. I know they bounce. I'm just glad it didn't bounce into the dust collector. That would be the worst. That's going way too fast. Might be too big of a bead. Yeah, we'll just go with it. I actually like the size of that, but it's gonna take away some material. A little catchy. What are you trying to catch on? Probably the... I don't know what that sound is. Probably the end of that thing. Still haven't gotten it actually beaded up. It's getting a little catchy though, I will be honest. Okay, I think that's good. I like that. Now we'll go back to our, probably should have gone with like a slightly smaller bead. Kind of smooth that thing over. All right, so first things first, I want to end up, I think, about a 3/4 at the top. I just want to see where are we, what's this thing? That's 0.8, so pretty much I'm just going to take it down to the size of this bushing that's on the mandrel. Somewhere around 0.8. So that makes things pretty easy. That's basically, I think, the same size as like your bottle stoppers. I just wanted to kind of know where are we at there, you know? Pretty far away. All right, let's see. You liking that thing? That's pretty cool, huh? I'm not 100% sure about this bead yet. It's kind of neat, but I don't know that I did that super awesomely. I think a smaller bead might have been a little bit cooler, but you know. Actually, I think I need to, I'm looking, there's like kind of a, I think I need to do a little work on this thing. Hopefully it won't make weird noises at me again. There's like, I didn't get in there good enough. So don't catch or do anything weird. Okay. There's just kind of a weird thing that a little lip. Probably going to come in with, this is really sharp, so I'll probably come in with a detail tool and just kind of ease that over a little bit. That's kind of neat too. I don't know if you guys can see that. I don't know if I like this or not, but I wasn't really intending to make this part of the design or anything. I was just trying to get the end down. You could have like kind of a little step. I don't think I like that, but as much as if it just was smooth. It is kind of interesting though. I don't know. Tried to cut the bead in at an angle from the bottom. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I hear what you mean. Like coming in at a that might, yeah, I understand that. Trying to tie it in better because it's kind of a weird. I think I really needed to go for like a. the problem is, you know, you have like different beads, but the 1/4 inch, I think I don't know if that's the biggest one. I think 3/16 might have been better because it's just not as deep. It doesn't go in as, like the circle isn't as like deep in there, and I think that would have maybe made it a little better. I don't know. It's cool though. I like the little detail there, but I don't know if I like this step or not though. Well, no, this didn't turn out how I expected either. I think what you're saying is more of what I was kind of thinking of when I was thinking of doing this. I don't really like that step thing. You were just speaking my language, Jim. Thinking what I was thinking. I'm digging that shape. What do you guys think of this? Like, I think I might be kind of done. Pretty smooth too. Like no weird bumps. Wow. That's like a first. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is, like I said, there's a pretty sharp edge in there where that cutter, the whatchamajig, kind of got in there. So I guess that was pretty far in. I'm gonna move you guys a little bit so I can kind of get in here. So again, I'm going to come in with the parting tool and very carefully. I don't want to hit that bead, but hopefully I got to turn the lights off because I got to be able to see this. Just to kind of, yeah, there we go. Just to roll that over. I could have just used sandpaper, I guess, too. I don't know, guys. I think I'm done. I think I like it. It's pretty wicked. I don't even think I've ever made a bell before. They're kind of like a bottle stopper. I mean, you know. Mr. Gold at SWAT. Nice. Picking up on it, yeah, I know, totally. Just beat it. Yeah, you're committed now, yeah, I know. Yeah, I like it. Pretty happy with that. One thing that I maybe can do, one thing that I'm thinking about, so if I look sideways at this, one thing that might kind of help this bead, like I'm kind of wondering if I should come in, you know, because I can't hollow, you know, I can't hollow out any wider than the inner thing. So I'm kind of thinking maybe I should just come in and, you know, cut this width. Yeah. As much as I kind of like that detail, it's not what I was going for sure. So I think I'm gonna shift gears a little bit. First thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna come in with the parting tool just to give myself some space and get the width down to that inside. I just think it'll be a lot easier to come in with that parting tool instead of trying to, I'm certainly not gonna get in there with a circle cutter or anything like that. I was thinking about maybe just kind of flaring it, but the more I'm looking at this, the more I think this is the right way to go. Just let's bring it down and have that bead, and it's all kind of one line. The other thing is with the handle being like, you know, coming down to like 3/4. I think this is pretty good proportions, but I think that this is going to be better to come in here and I certainly don't think that it's going to like really wreck the, like coming down in the width right here, I don't think it's going to wreck anything. If it does, we got another one. This one's kind of the prototype, you know. We can see both ways by doing it like this. And I think I kind of like that better. I don't know. I do think the 1/4 inch bead was too big. I wouldn't have picked that. I wouldn't pick that again. I like that better. Still have a little bit of, still got a little bit more to take off down there. It's not right where I want it. Okay. Now, really the better way to do this would probably be to come in with like the square cutter, the R2 square. The only problem is having that radius sometimes makes things a little weird. I don't really want to come in with a straight one, so we're just going to continue with the round. I think that's pretty good. I'm a little low. There. What do you guys think of that? That's kind of cool. I'm going to turn down the light a little bit so it's a little bit better. I think I'm gonna work on this just a little bit, kind of a bump there, a little bit more straight. But I think I like the shape of this. Just kind of clean this up just a hair, and then we'll wet sand all this, and then we can start working on the hollowing. So just a quick there we go. And then, like I said, I'm going to sand this guy first because we're pretty much done with the outside. And we can turn the dust collector off. God, it's loud. Get a drink. Man, I'm pretty happy with this bell. I don't love the 1/4 inch. I think it would have been better with a little bit less of a like radius or whatever. Like I think the 3/16. I'm looking. Is it 3/16? I've got a few of these things. I think this little tiny one would have not been very cool. It's a 1/16. Is that what that is? I can't read. Let me put some glasses on. Yeah, I think 1/8. I think that would have been like too small. I think the 3/16 cutter would have been kind of like the home run on this, you know. I just had that thing. Where did it go? Why do I keep losing things today? So we used a 1/4, and the next step down, I'm pretty sure I have all of them. Where the heck did that thing go? It's probably under a tool. Get a drink real quick. Hello, cutter, where'd you go? I got so many little cutters in here. I can't find, I found a spare Allen wrench while I was looking in here. That's good. If I ever need that. There it is, 3/16. I haven't even opened it yet. I think that would have probably been a better shape. So just to kind of give you, hopefully you can see, give you kind of a comparison between these two. I think that would have been better. And technically I could come in here and cut this down. I don't really want to. I don't know. I think I'm done messing with it. But I think if I did it again, I would definitely go with the 1/4 or the 3/16. So let me put these tools away here so I can breathe. Jamie Page, what's up, man? Am I in #1 in the chat? I don't know, man. You should be. Thanks for the super chat. I appreciate it. So we made a bell. I've been just kind of winging it, man. I was telling everybody at the beginning, I haven't turned anything on the lathe except for like pens and pen variant type things that I was like, I don't know. We'll see if this actually works. I'm pretty happy with this. This is pretty fun. It's pretty much like a bottle stopper. I mean, I didn't really think of it that way. When I first started everything, I was just kind of like, well, I don't know. I don't even have a plan. But so far, this is going pretty good. Definitely digging it. So we're going to sand this guy up now. And then we get to do the hollowing, which that's kind of, I mean, I'm going to be completely honest. I like the idea of like this you know, silver bells, the song idea kind of tie in. I thought that was cool, but I was super excited to do the hollowing. I haven't hollowed anything. And I know it's a tiny little, you know, it's not like we're hollowing a vase or something like that, but even these guys, like for anybody that hasn't hollowed ever before, highly, highly recommend. So we're going to back up. We're backing up, back it up. I'm going to show you guys my probably one. I mean, I don't know. I like a lot of the Easy Wood tools, but I got to be honest. This one, if you don't have the #1 hollower, it's really big. If you don't have one of these guys, and if you don't hollow anything, you're not planning on doing it, don't buy this. But if you do you're like, I don't know, that'd be kind of fun. This is the tool that you want to do your hollowing. Grab yourself a negative rake. This thing is so much fun with a negative rake cutter. And to start kind of playing around, if you ever wanted to get into like, you know, bigger things, vases and things like that. I mean, you don't need it. You go grab yourself a stopper blank, grab yourself this #1, and you could do it with the regular, you know, you can do it with this one too. If that's all you have and you don't want to go buy another tool, you can do it. The problem is you're going to get a better, you can get into something a little smaller, especially like that, much easier with the #1 hollower. And it's got a nice long handle, and this thing you can do like vases with, you know, like deeper. So if you ever want to get into that, just chuck yourself up something, you know, 2-inch or so blank and start hollowing, man. You're gonna love it. I really think if you haven't done it before, I do still say that the key is the negative rake cutter. If you're hollowing, well, I mean, I think even with wood they recommend it. But if you're doing resin, the negative rake hollowing, oh, you're gonna be like, this is the greatest thing I've ever done in my life. You're gonna love it. You can even just do little bottle stoppers and little bells and things. It's pretty cool. Anyway, I'll get off my get off my thing. So is Jamie #1 yet? He is #1. What's up? That's cool. Formal wear piece. Wow. It's a tie between the two. That's funny. Marquetta's sewing a formal wear piece. That's pretty sweet. I don't think I've ever sewed anything in my life. Not that I wouldn't or anything. I'm not against it. I just have no clue, and I don't have anyone. I have no reason to for most things. And I don't really have anyone that would really teach me. I'd have to like take a class or something. I know I could watch YouTube and stuff, but I think that would be a thing where I'd really just like, well, #1, it'd be cool to use better equipment than I have without having to buy it. I think it'd be cool to take a sewing class. I never took home ec in, which I was supposed to, in junior high, and they taught you sewing. But I was so proud of myself for doing this. I played sports, and I, like in the middle of the year, I switched from normal PE to weights. I got into the weight training class thing, and somehow that screwed up my entire schedule. And so there was this track of, I think it was like 4 classes, like one, like split up, you know, you took for a quarter of the year, you took this one thing, and then you switched, and the home ec was in that. And because my schedule changed, I I skipped the home ec thing somehow. I don't know how that worked, but it was great. But I kind of would have liked to learn the sewing thing. Didn't really care about, I think you learned how to like cook in that one. And I that's typically what home ec is most places, but some places are different. But I think there was like a cooking section. I didn't need that because I know how to cook. It's not that hard. Add fire. But yeah, the sewing part would have been cool. Oh yeah, that would be kind of cool to do a date thing. I'm loving that currency conversion. So I think I'm good here with the. This is 600 grit. I'm doing the same thing that I do on pens. Nothing different. These shapes are a little. Pens are so much easier to sand because it's just a cylinder. You know. Then like even stoppers. When you start adding lots of shapes and things, and then it starts to kind of get tedious. I'm not a particularly huge fan of sanding. I'm going to be completely honest. Wish there was like a tool that you just like applied to the thing. It just did it all, polished it for you. I like the shaping part, you know. How many of you guys like enjoy the like sanding and polishing, like the kind of finishing steps? Maybe not more than, but like you enjoy that process. And how many of you guys are like, you know, I can just skip that and it just polishes itself, sands and polishes itself? I'm going to do a poll. We're going to do a poll. I want to see how many people are like, yeah, the finishing process is not my favorite. Let's do a poll. Start a poll. I love finishing. And then it's going to be, yeah, I guess just yes or no. Start poll. I'm glad that they have these little things on YouTube. Like when I first started doing the streaming, YouTube didn't have like any of this stuff, you know? You had to add like things and do, I don't know, it was such a pain. I'm glad they have things integrated now where you can kind of do these little fun types of things. I don't know. You guys remember when like YouTube was terrible at streaming? Twitch was a little better. Well, I don't know. It didn't necessarily have like polls and stuff built into it, but it just like the way that you had to do most of the stuff, it was all kind of built in, but it was also kind of a pain because you had to use like Streamlabs and all these other different things. It was a pain. Streaming is way easier now. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of lightly, you don't really want to do a lot of sanding on detailed things. I'm just going to kind of get in here, do a little bit, very lightly. I'm not that worried about tool marks and stuff. I don't know that I had there's a little bit of a flat because I didn't dig in as far as that cutter. That thing was just kind of, 1/4 inch doesn't sound like much. So I was like, oh yeah, 1/4 inch, that sounds like a good idea. But man, it's a lot deeper on a bottle stopper size thing than you would imagine. I'll just try and kind of get this, do a little hand shaping here. Just to kind of get rid of that little flat. It's very minor too. I didn't notice it. It's some blanks, some colors. It's kind of hard. Like I really needed to look down this way rather than sideways at it. So sometimes it's a good idea to kind of stop and like walk around a project on the lathe. Catch it from different angles to see like, okay, I got to do something. Or you could just be like me and sand it out. Pull out the 80 grit scraper. I think, does anybody know, somebody came out with like a sandpaper, I would have actually bought it, but it was like, oh, you have to buy this extra thing. But like, it'd be really neat to have some sort of doohickey that like holds the sandpaper for you. Sometimes it gets all over the place, especially when it's wet, it's all slippery. I think somebody came out with something, but it was like sandpaper, like it was like a product. You'd have to use their sandpaper too. You couldn't just use your own. So that kind of deterred me, but I'm all about systems, you know, like buying into the system thing. Apple, I like Apple products. The ecosystem, but like that was having to buy like specific sandpaper just to get this little sandpaper holder. That the other problem was I'm like, I don't know if that's gonna work. ATV racers, that's cool. Huge industrial machine, yeah. More power. The Binford 3000 sewing machine. That's what I'm talking about. Okay, I think that's good. Sanded to perfection. I'm going to stop and look at the poll results, see what you guys think about sanding. Your cousin's son is a British ATV. That's awesome. I believe it's called Fingers. Oh, that Roman. Ski parkas, that's awesome. Carve out time. Oh, yeah. The puns and jokes, you guys are fun. Yeah, I like seeing the results. I don't like doing the process. I'm lazy. Planned up, yeah. Air tools. Binford. Nice. Okay, I can't see the poll over here. Oh, interesting. Oh, my hands are wet. Whatever. 59 to 41. Yeah. I get it. I get it. Okay, let's do the green. Sometimes it helps to like, because your finger can't get into that crease, to like kind of stretch the paper and kind of get in there. It's kind of hard sometimes to, I really hate like, you know, like you can take your detail tool and put little indentations in there. Typically I just leave them. Like I'm not going to sit there and sand every little crevice. It usually is fine. How many of you guys actually do that? Do you sand like, what do you call that when you, I don't even know what that's called. The action. You know, when you just put in little, whatever. I don't know what those are called. Can't think. Words have escaped me. I don't sand all those little parts. But on like bottle stoppers, you know, tight radii, beads and coves and things, you really kind of need to get in there. I mean, otherwise it's just not really going to look that great. It'll be like pretty apparent, but like the little tiny things, if you just put little, I see this like on diamond painting pens a lot, like grooves, I guess that would be the word, grooves. A lot of times, I mean, you can't really tell anyway, and sandpaper's, I mean, I don't know, you could fold it and do all that stuff, but I just find like it doesn't really do much. typically. I might do it quick, just also to, if there's like a sharp edge or something on that groove, just kind of hit it with sandpaper, but I'm not going to sit there and like polish up through the grits and do all that stuff. I just don't really feel like it does that much. This, odd shapes sometimes also for like the polishing part. That's where a buffing wheel can kind of come in handy. You don't need to go out and buy one, obviously, but if you have a buffing setup, sometimes these kind of odd shapes and coves and beads and weird stuff just buff way better, easier than trying to sit here and do this kind of stuff. You're still gonna have to sand a little bit, but if I was gonna use my buffing wheels, I would, like this green paper, it would be probably where I stop, and then I would just switch over to the Triple E wheel on the buffing wheels. I'm gonna do magic juice on this, I think, but sometimes this isn't really that difficult. But sometimes, you get like all these kind of curves and shapes and things going on, and realistically, it's just a little bit simpler. The buffing wheels are just, they do that. They get into those kind of crevices so much easier. And for like grooves and things like that, you'll get in there. Now, the one thing is you got to watch out. You might get some polish like in there. That's where, and even with magic juice, if you have a bunch of grooves, the nice thing is you can just kind of blow it out, or even toss it in. If you have one of those sonic cleaners, you can kind of clean a lot of that junk out of grooves and things like that. So that makes things a little bit easier. All this manual stuff gets tedious. And especially if you were doing like multiples, are you going to sit there and sand every single groove? You got like 50 grooves to sand. There's better ways to do things sometimes. Faster, more efficient. But I am digging this thing, man. It's looking pretty cool. Now, like I said, I still think I could have probably waited for a higher temp when I poured this blank. I always kind of forget that. The wider the blank, or like mold, if you're pouring a pen blank into a 3/4 inch hole, I just find you really don't have to wait as long to get kind of a swirling action. It just kind of swirls a bit. You're dumping it down in there, and it kind of swirls around. You could even use your little stick to kind of swirl it up, but it doesn't move as much as like a 2-inch hole. And as that gets even bigger, you kind of really, if you want to get kind of a swirly action in the pearls, you really kind of need to wait even longer. And if I haven't done one for a while, I kind of forget, and then I do one and I'm like, should have waited longer. And so that's again, you keep that notebook, and if you can go back to something and find it, you'll probably figure out that, oh yeah, I made this note before, and this was the temperature. The tough thing is if your temperature's changing, throughout the year in the shop, then your pouring temperatures probably are going to change as well, and it makes it a little bit more difficult. If you've got a stable temperature, man, that book, your notebook just makes things so much easier to just nail it exactly how you want it, off the bat, without having to be like, oh yeah, now I remember, I got to wait longer or something. Okay, so we got that one. I don't need to do that. Go with the silver. I'm going to switch. That's okay. You guys see all I'm seeing right now is okay, yeah, that's right. Buffing wheel is my best friend. Yeah, and I was a staunch buffing fanatic before Magic Juice, because like there was a lot of these little pastes and plastic polishes, and there was things, and people liked them. I just found they weren't that great. The Magic Juice though, whew. It was funny because I've said this a million times, but a bunch of people were like, "Oh, you got to try this Magic Juice," and I'm like, "Oh yeah, 6-step polishing sounds fun." I can get the same, I can get things done. I know the results with my buffing wheels, and it's 2 steps. But I was like, okay, we'll try it. So I got some and did a live stream, and I'm like, okay, we're testing this out. I fully expected to just be like, yeah, I mean, it works, but I don't like it. I'm not switching or anything. And I literally got like way better results in like half the time. I mean, way less time. And I have a buffing machine set up. I have my old Comet lathe set up with buffing wheels. So it's not like I got to sit and like change my lathe over and do all that. That even adds even more time. But they were way better looking, like much more glossy. And I was like, oh, okay, you guys were right. It has to be like, cheaper, easier, and like idiot proof. Sometimes for you to like switch things, well, for me to switch how I do things. And it literally checked every one of those boxes. I was like, wow. But it's not like I packed up my buffing wheels. I still use them. When I'm doing those little test sample blanks for the team color things, just get a little example. So I pour a batch, and I'm checking to see if the colors or the pour work, the way I'm doing the pour and all that stuff works right. I just chuck this thing up in my chuck and just turn it down real quick. I don't want to turn a pen for every single one of these things, because I do a bunch of them. And so I'll sand, I go through my 3, up to green or gray, and I just buff these because it just takes 2 seconds for me to buff it really quick. I don't need it to be perfect at all. I just need it to kind of get a sheen. And so I still do that for those. I'm not going to pull out 6 steps of Magic Juice to do that, but I don't care if there's scratches and stuff. I just need it to be kind of shiny-ish. So it works pretty good for that. And like I said, if I'm doing something with like weird grooves and a bunch of shaping and all that kind of stuff, I just find it much easier to buff. So I usually just do that. But for pens and things, even most stoppers and things like that, I mean, the Magic Juice, whew, killer product. I think I'm going to do the polishing also. Just get the outside totally done. These are pretty wet. This thing dried up here. Okay, we'll do our magic juice. My handy dandy my little rack. I love this rack. Oh, it's the greatest. And I need to get some blue towels ripped up here. So far I'm pretty excited about this. I just hope that we can get the rest of these components all working together, get a really good ornament. And I'm still using, I could use those other little guys. what are they called? Those little microfiber cloths. I don't know. I like this idea for like the higher grits. Someday I need to sit down and actually do that kind of experiment. See, you know, is there a point at some step in the magic juice where you see like a noticeable difference in you know, like does my issue is, does the paper towel like scratch stuff? And I still think for like steps 1 through 3, I'm thinking it really doesn't make that much difference. I don't know. I don't know though. I'd like to kind of pull out the magnifying lenses and try to actually get an answer to that question. I may have to come back and redo this. I'm going to kind of go kind of quick today because we're, you know, spending quite a bit of time here doing this. And I got other things to do too today still, but so I may come back. The nice thing is I can just you know, we were talking about what's the advantage of having a separating handle. The other nice thing is I can chuck this thing back up on the mandrel anytime I want, you know, and get the polishing better if I don't do that good or whatever, you know, fix it, do something. So that is kind of a nice thing to have, having the separate components, because I think that again, the mounting issues, having the handle integrated, probably are not going to let you come back and fix stuff if you needed to. I don't know for sure. I can't think through the steps of the process, you know, offhand, but I just think that it would be a little bit more difficult. I really like things that if you screwed up, or, you know, maybe, oh, there's this scratch that I didn't see on the stream. It's really nice to be able to remount something and fix it. So like with many of the, you know, with your normal pens, the kit pens, like I'm probably not going to take it apart, disassemble it and rebuff it or whatever. But on the kitless pens, I can chuck it back up and polish it again if I want to, or whatever. So it's kind of nice in that sense. Or if you have to fix anything, it's always nice to be able to. Stoppers are the greatest. You can always just remount those things and fix them up. Let's see. Question: can you buy individual steps? Yeah, I don't know. You might actually. I think you can buy single steps from stadiumpenblanks.com, possibly. The only thing is it might be like large sizes of them. Like you can buy like a huge bottle of step 1. I want to say that you can if you really need to. I don't know if Turner's carries that, though. Oh, okay, so the question, sorry, the poll, I just kind of quickly did the poll. I meant like the finishing process, though, which includes sanding, polishing. That's what I meant to say. Finishing process. Polishing, yeah, I like polishing a lot better than sanding, I'll tell you that. My brain's just more wired to like, I don't know, to the making, shaping it and all that kind of stuff. That's almost more. There's a caveat. Now, I'm not saying that it's not important. That's not what I'm saying. It's the enjoyment or whatever. Once if I got the shape and I'm like, oh yeah, that's it. Then I just want it done. I want to see the results and get it shiny and all that stuff, but I don't want to do all that work. But it is, when before I got into turning, I did woodworking, and it was always funny because same way with that, but and always in like this is back in the day with like the forums and all that stuff, and people didn't really like when you got into woodworking. People didn't really fully get that the finishing process, the sanding, the putting finish on and all that stuff, that would likely take as long, if not longer in some cases, than the building. So I think that this is kind of a common thread. A lot of people kind of fall into my type of category where you're like, yeah, I don't know, sanding and all that, it's not very fun. Because it was a very common thread. And like woodworking, if you're building like a cabinet or whatever, I mean, that takes weeks sometimes. And then you're like, okay, I'm done. And then you got like a lot of, I probably should have done this the other direction. You've got a lot of, this is maybe a little bit more on the danger scale than the pens for getting this, because this will not rip, this material, but it's like a microfiber. I'm going to be very careful, but this could get caught up on the piece a little. I'd say this is a little bit easier to get caught on something than a pen. So I'm not loving it so much. Could use a smaller piece or something, but just so this isn't the greatest demonstration, is what I'm saying. Use your own cautions. Okay, step 6. Give it a little shake. Let's see here. Do they make 3-inch buffing wheel? Yeah, you can do that. You can get little buffing things that go on like a drill. That would work. You could even use like a Dremel. I haven't tried it. Well, this definitely looks like a silver bell so far. To my eyes, anyway. All right, so I'm going to stop it. I'm just going to wipe it off a little bit with the separate microfiber here. Kind of have this guy sitting around in that drawer as kind of the final thing. That's looking sweet. Get you guys in. It's even better looking, I feel, than the camera shows. Oh, my power cord is stuck. Sorry about that. That's looking pretty cool. Definitely got some of that. As you spin it, it goes from kind of like that gray, and the curves change the look depending on how the light's hitting it. You get a little bit more of that kind of gray, but you get like silver out on this end. It's pretty neat. I'm going to give you guys a different, maybe like a different perspective. Maybe it'll kind of show up a little bit differently. I don't know. Where did the, there we go. Definitely pretty cool. Okay, so now at this point, we need to hollow this guy out. So one of the nice things, especially if you don't want to mess around with this stuff, you know, you could come at it and start attacking it with just that hollowing tool, or, you know, your tool, whatever. But it's so much easier if you just come in and drill this thing out. So give yourself, like, waste out the majority of this thing with the drill. But, you know, obviously you need to keep in mind, you know, what's the diameter and all that kind of stuff, so that you don't cut this thing into a, I don't know what shape that would be. So another good reason to have plastic calipers is, I don't really want to put a metal thing on this. So we're looking at like 1.66 inches. So I could come in and try and like pull out like an inch and a half. I think that would be, drilling that out, I don't know, that would probably work, but I'm going to probably come in with an inch here. Let's see if I got an inch and an eighth. But that'll give me I like to be able to hollow a little bit and like really determine on my own, like how deep am I going to go in on this thing. If I can find a 1 inch, I got a 3/4. I think 3/4 would be a little bit low, but another thing, I'll probably come in with a wider one and stop, and then come in with a little bit skinnier one and go up a little bit deeper. Because I'm not opposed. Now, the way that this, initially in my brain, I was kind of thinking like the bell shape would kind of come to a point rather than kind of swoop up. So we got a lot of room. My idea of attaching I don't know what you call that thing, the dongle thing, to the handle, I'm probably not going to hollow all the way to the top of this thing. I don't know. I mean, I guess it does go down pretty far, the screw, but I don't know. I got to think about this for a second. So the screw's coming into probably about right here. That's the other thing. You got to watch out. You don't want to drill into the mandrel itself, the screw on the end. Yeah. But I still think I'm going to probably come in with two different things. I'm going to come in with like a 1 inch and go, you know, this deep, and then maybe come in with like a 3/4 or so and come in just a little bit farther. So I got to trying to find a 1 inch thingy. Where the heck are all where did I put my Forstner bits? There they are. Do I have a 1 inch? 3/4? Yeah. No, that's 1 1/4. What the heck? Oh, I bet it needs to be sharpened. There's one thing that doesn't fly in my shop. It's a Forstner bit that doesn't cut. I have neglected to actually get my Forstner bits sharpened. You can do it on your own, I guess, but I don't know. I don't really have a whole lot of faith in my ability to sharpen these things. 7/8. Good Lord. Where's the 1 inch? I got two 7/8, but I don't have any 1 inches. All right, well, we're gonna go with 1 1/8. It's a little wider than I really wanted, but shouldn't really cause a problem. And then I'm gonna come in with a 3/4. What is this one? 1 inch by 6 inch. Huh. That would do. We're gonna do 1 1/8, and then 3/4. So now it's kind of crucial to have good measurements on how deep I'm going on these things. I think we will go about, I don't even want to go an inch in. A little over 3/4 inch deep with the, oops, I hit the camera. Sorry about that. With the 1 1/8. And this is where you really do want to have some Forstner bits for doing this kind of stuff, because you're not going to find a 1 inch, well, not very easily. You're not going to find a 1 inch drill bit. They make them, but if you ever needed a normal large, bigger than a 1/2 inch drill bit, a lot of them actually you can get them where they're just like a Morse taper. It's a little bit kind of funky, but they're called Silver and Deming. So you can look on like drill bit websites and stuff and look for Silver and Deming. Usually those things come in pretty big sizes. I don't know how big they will get, but pretty big. Let's see if this works. I know. Thanks for the super chat. I appreciate it. Hockey game. Oh man, who's playing? Oh, so yes, Stephen was just asking about. You could. I have like a 7/8, but I don't know. My dad probably has, God knows what. But they're very large. This is one of them. I think this is the 5/8, I guess. And they just look like this. You can just chuck them into a, I don't know. This thing is like way chewed up. I think I just put it in my drill chuck. This is not a great example because it's just messed up, but that's what they look like. And so, typically you can only get up to 1/2 inch in like drill bit sets, but you can go farther. But for stuff like this, the other thing is I don't necessarily want that extra point. I really just want to go in the depth that I'm going and be done with it, kind of thing. So, let's see. Took the link down. Orange buffing system. Oh, yeah, you can post the link if you want. Oh, good. Thanks, Mark, for checking that out. Sunshine cloth. So that the stuff that I bought this on Amazon somewhere, and I have this. There's a link in the description to polishing supplies, and it's in there. There's just these little microfiber cleaning cloths. They're non-scratch, whatever else. I think they use these for like electronics and in labs or something. I don't know what they use them for exactly, but that's where I got it, and they work good. One of the nice things is there's also no like lint, because you could buy like little microfiber towels, like like Costco sells these yellow ones. The problem is if you cut this, it's gonna just be like fuzzy and terrible. And I've tried that and I didn't like it. Those little kind of cleaning cloth things work really well, but like I said, they don't rip. So, there's always a danger of things getting caught, wrapping up and like catching your finger on, and trapping it. So that's why you typically, you're not going to wear gloves. Now, nitrile gloves, I I don't know, somehow caught, it's just gonna rip the glove, so I don't really care. But like, you know, you're not gonna wear like leather and that goes for like jewelry and t-shirts, you know, long sleeves and hair, all that kind of stuff. You just wanna watch out because things can easily get wrapped up. And here's the crazy thing. I mean, how many people are like afraid of the drill press, right? But it's the same thing with the drill press. You really gotta watch out because those things can become dangerous real quick if something gets wrapped up on it. All right, so before I move on, I want to mark my drill bit here real quick. I lost my, oh, there it is. So I wanted to come in, yeah, I'm going to go to the 4 there, okay. Marker. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to hit the point. I'm going to get because there's like a center point on there. I got to use 2 hands. I like to hold the chuck. I'm going a little fast. So I just wanted to bury out the bit there. So I can kind of get a somewhat accurate measurement of how deep I'm going. And I find this part satisfying as well. Watching those ribbons flying off. I'm gonna get you guys in the action. Oh yeah. Okay. So, scoot you back. Now we got this. Oh, tripping over cables. Sorry about that. Don't mind me. There we go. Okay, so that worked out good. I didn't screw anything up. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back with a smaller Forstner bit and plunge in a little bit further. Now, again, just because everything's gone so well so far, I want to just take a measurement and kind of see where we're at. Now, I really didn't even get down to 3/4 at the top, I don't think, but I'll tell you what, I'd rather just take a measurement. Yeah, so that's at 1 right there. So 3/4 will be perfectly fine. And then, now, I don't usually recommend dismounting. In this case, it shouldn't be a problem at all, but I usually like to leave things where they are. But what I want to do is I want to know, I think I'm just going to use my ruler. How deep is this thing coming out? So to the 12, that'll give me room to spare. running pretty true. Okay. Yeah, so I really don't want to go too deep on this thing. That screw is coming out to probably, I mean, I'm overshooting a little bit here with my number. But I mean, it's a good, it's probably to about right there. I know you guys probably can't really see this, but this is highly scientific measurements. Yeah, so I definitely don't want to be going 1.5 inches. So I've got about 1 3/8 I can go in. So let's taking things slow, like I said, because I just don't really want to screw up at this point, drilling things out. There's plenty of time for me to screw stuff up still, but this is not the point that I want to screw up at. If I'm going to screw up, I want to do it on my own, you know? Give me a chance to screw something up. All right, so this guy somehow in there. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of lay this over. Okay, so that kind of give myself a little straight edge. Back it up just a hair. And then what I want to do is give it about 1 3/8. I'm going to make another mark. Again, none of this is like super accurate measuring here, but I'm giving myself leeways, hopefully enough error room to not, two things. I'm not going to come out of the stopper because this bit is actually skinnier than the smallest point, so I'm not worried about that, but I'm not even going to get to that point. I'm just worried about hitting, there's a screw sticking out on that mandrel, and I don't really want to jam this Forstner bit into that thing. It'll probably be apparent I'm probably not going to cause any damage if I did that to anything, but I'd rather just not, you know? Rather just not. All right, so I'm going to zoom out a little bit, turn the compressor or the whatever. Let's see here. Mark got bumped to 3. Utah Mammoth. What is Utah Mammoth? Oh, that's the hockey game. Oh, that's cool. Let's see here. Okay, start over. I just got here. I love it. All right, so do that. Well, if I screw something up, I'm going to have to start over. Haven't hit anything yet. Getting very close. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna scoot you guys back. I'm actually gonna bring you guys over here. I'm gonna drop the camera down a little bit, prop it back up, and we're gonna get this cone out of the way, somewhat. Let's stay back here and just zoom in. Let's see if I can go down just one more. Click. I'm gonna get a light also on you guys, so you can kind of see in there a little bit maybe. All right, so that's reasonable. I'm gonna get my tailstock kind of out of the way. May even take it off completely. Just depends on how well I can get in there. But this is the fun part. Now, what I do when I'm hollowing, because my lathe, I can put it in reverse. Normally, if you don't have reverse, you'd have to come in and hit this side because it's spinning, you know, this way. I like to just put my lathe in reverse, and then I don't have to like swap sides of the lathe or do any weird stuff. I can just come in and hit this side when I'm doing my hollowing, and it just makes things easier. So hopefully you'll be able to see that. And I'm also going to get my bigger tool rest. It just makes things a little bit easier. Now, again, going back to probably my favorite tool ever is the #1 hollower. It's just so much fun. Like I said, if you haven't done hollowing, I think you're gonna love it. You're really gonna enjoy the process. And when you're doing resin, the key is getting the negative rate cutter. It is gonna make the process you're gonna love it. Now, the one issue is you have to watch out because the tool, the bar, may get in the way, and you may have to angle your cutter a little bit. A 1.5 inch blank is a little bit more difficult to hollow, you know, again, just because you got a lot of bar. Realistically, like, I haven't done it, but I've thought about just grinding this thing because I'm sure it provides stability or something, and it's probably not a good idea to do if you're going to be hollowing larger things and getting, you know, further in. But on smaller things, I'll tell you what, it sure would be nice if this bar wasn't sitting there. Now, they also, Easywood Tools also does make like little mini hollowing tools. I haven't used these a whole lot. They have a whole little set. I don't know what, on the camera or what. They have a set of them, and they have like little different angles and things also. So, I don't know. I'm going to open this up. I haven't used these a whole lot. I have used them, and they came in really handy when I did, but I'm curious to see what the clearance is. They also have just a straight one. And it does look like it may have a little bit more clearance. Yeah, probably has a little bit more clearance, but like, I mean, really, it's not like a massive difference on this. Yeah. It would probably be a little bit easier, but I love the #1 hollowing tool, so we're going to try that first. I'd say like a 3-inch blank. If you can get to like 3 inches, you're probably not going to have nearly the same kind of issue. It depends on the diameter of the hole that you're, you know, cutting in, but a 3-inch blank would be a little bit easier to hollow probably. Harold's here. Would make a cute funnel, yeah. Viral reel. I forgot that the greetings program thing was from Tron. We just watched both, you know, the first one and the second one, and I was like, oh yeah, that's what that's from. Yeah, I hope it works out. Thanks for joining the fun, Mike. Okay, so let's turn on the dust collector. You guys can see, I think, like I said, I might have to kind of do a little angling, but again, the negative rate cutter allows more movement and stuff without it being grabby and catching on anything. So, you know, now one thing I'm going to mention before, I'm going to turn this thing off because I feel like I'm screaming at you guys. One thing I'll mention before we get going on this, if you're going to do the hollowing, you want, I mean, realistically, you want to be kind of coming in like at, you know, the center of the blank. But if you're going to miss up or down, you want to miss up because the diameter is moving out away from the tool rather than in. So you don't want to be like low on this thing because it's coming in on the cutter. That's where you, and I think that was one of my issues before with the standard cutters. Either way, the standard cutters are going to be a lot more aggressive and like grabby in resin, in anything really. But if you're too low on the blank, then that diameter is coming in and creating an even more aggressive cut, and it's going to tend to want to grab. So if you're going to miss a little bit higher, and it'll be a little bit better. It's kind of similar to the idea of if you're on the outside, if you're doing a spindle or like a pen or whatever, with the standard cutters, people used to kind of angle them down, and that's kind of similar in a way where it's going to be less aggressive versus like coming up on it. Okay, so it's kind of opposite on the inside. If you're going to miss, you know, a little bit on the higher end. So, having that said, and I'm not a, like I said, I'm not a lathe expert, but oh, I got to turn this. Helps to put it in reverse if you're going to do the other side. A little vibraty, I'm not going to lie. Quite a bit vibraty, actually. I'm actually going to kind of try and see. Yeah, it settles down on the inside. I don't know if you guys can see down that far down in. We have a kind of a step. Now, on one hand, it's probably best to actually hollow the wider stuff and leave that meat intact a little bit. So I'm going to come back over here. You just want to be kind of not super aggressive with it. One other thing that I'm wondering, if your cutter's dull, you're going to get a lot more chatter too. So I'm going to actually, it doesn't look like it though. I'm going to get the super glasses on. I just want to look at my cutter and kind of see, wow, that cutoff went flying across the shop. I got a brand new cutter, so if I feel like this thing's kind of dull, I might just swap it out so I can get a better cut. Yeah, it looks a little dull. Not terrible or anything, but I'm going to rotate the cutter real quick and just see if I can get a little bit less chatter. Because it definitely doesn't make it super awesome if you got a bunch of chatter going on. Let's just see if that helps any. I'm also going to kind of play around with speeds. Yeah. I think part of the problem was it was kind of hitting the tool. I'm going to try those little mini hollowing tools real quick, just see if anything does change. I'd rather it not do that. No. Dust in my eye. Okay. The pull stroke seems to be a little bit less chattery than the push. All right, I'm going to stop. I was kind of paying a lot of attention to what I was doing. Let's see what the chat says. Nothing. No comments. Sheesh. What do you guys think about this hollowing? Slow and steady wins the race when you're hollowing. be a little bit high, actually. You don't want to be like super high on it. That might actually help with the chattering just a little bit too. Because the problem is I'm trying to kind of see in there, so I'm kind of angling the tool. So I think what I'm going to do is drop this just a little bit. Try and see if we can't reduce the chattering even more. Yeah, I'm hitting the bottom of the tool on the outside part here. All right, so I got some ridges going on right there. I'm also going to kind of round over this edge. It's very sharp right now, but I want to kind of come in and almost kind of pull that bead around, and that'll kind of help me figure out like where is the width. Now I have to be careful because I don't have to the outside of the bead. I have to, you know, somewhere on the inside. So at this point, I'm not going for the thinnest piece because it's already pretty, you know, vibratey, and I'd rather just get through this and not say that I made the thinnest hollow form on the planet. Make a nice looking thing. So I'm going to try to smooth things out. I'm probably, I don't know, just by feeling this, probably looking at like, I don't know, it's probably like a 1/4 inch thick or so. I've got more room to go, but I'm gonna just basically kind of use, now you can pull out calipers and do all that kind of stuff, but I'm just gonna do it by feel. So I wanna kind of work a little bit on this outside just to kind of figure out where's the end point for taking material off out here. And then kind of work on smoothing everything out on the inside. I'm having trouble getting my bearings, bringing that bead over with it on this side. So I'm actually going to switch back, come in on this side. A little bit low. I feel like I'm a little high. All right. Another thing that will cause chatter is if you don't have if this thing isn't really firm, the tool can kind of vibrate almost on the tool rest. So try to get it, you know, you don't have to like death grip this thing down, but not having decent pressure solid contact between the tool and the tool rest sometimes also can cause some chatter, which I'm getting a better cut on the inside, and it may be because I've got better pressure down. But I want to come in here. Kind of create a nice round area. Basically just trying to kind of like extend the bead. Around the horn there. And that's actually looking pretty good. Once again, it's always good to kind of stop and like, okay, let me back up and see what's going on. Let me feel feel that, how thick are we at? We're still good. Still got a decent amount of material in there, I think. Alright. I'm actually doing better on the inside here with it going normal. A little bit of chatter right there. Ooh, that's feeling pretty good. Feeling pretty good. Now the chatter's adding like weird marks that I'm gonna have to sand out, but I mean overall this thing got a little bit more to take off deeper in, but it's pretty uniform up until about the halfway point, and then it starts. And I wasn't sure where the curve was. I wasn't really paying attention, but most of what I'm taking off is like pretty much straight. I'm not really getting too much into the part where it kind of tapers in because we got that screw down in there. So I think just a few more. No, I lost the lathe buddy again. I'm gonna put the lathe buddy over here. Probably just a few more cuts deeper in. And I don't know, can you guys see? I'm gonna stop it so that I'm not staring at the camera while I do this. Probably can't see a whole lot. I'm wondering at this point if I'm gonna come in above a little higher and see if you guys can't get a better. Maybe oh, I just pushed something. Maybe you'll be able to see a little bit better. I don't know. And I don't need these gloves on, but I just forgot to take them off. I keep losing my spray gun. Come on. Work with me. Oh, that actually did pretty good. I'm gonna take a few more cuts and I think I'm gonna be done. There's still plenty of meat, I think, all the way. One thing that would be nice At this point, I don't really have like a smooth curve. I kind of have a flat end. Again, I don't have a lot of room at the very bottom to be kind of messing around, but I can work. The screw's only, you know, 3/8 wide, so I can try and get a little bit more curvature on the sides of that thing. I don't know if that made sense, but feeling pretty good. I'm gonna take a couple more passes here. And if you can, you're like, once you've kind of gotten this shape, this may sound obvious, but you're really best off just kind of taking a full pass along the entire length. If you're just kind of chopping at it, you're really gonna have a tough time getting it like a smooth flow. Like, and again, there's not really a whole lot of curve even going on here. It's pretty straight, but even still, if you can kind of just take a nice, you know, even pass along the length over and over again, you'll take off a little, you know, at a time and just get it down, but kind of keep it so it's not like bumpy. So nice smooth passes is kind of the way to go on these. Oh, hit the camera. Get the viewfinder out of my way. I'm going to do actually, I think that's good still. Still think we're good on everything. I mean, I could go thinner on this, but okay. I got a pretty good pass on that last one with minimal chatter. So I think I'm going to take my win and stop right now. So we got a little bit of sanding, everybody's favorite to do. Can't get this box back together. What's going on here? There we go. Get that thing out of the way. I'm going to do a little bit of shape sanding right here. It's a little bit kind of just flat. So I'd like to kind of bring that bead around. I could have come with the tool, but it's a little chattery. I'd rather just, again, chicken out and get it done. I tend to take less risks as it gets closer to the end, and I haven't screwed anything up yet. Okay, let's stop and see what you guys are doing. Emil's here. How's it going? All right, so what do you guys think so far? Not too bad. It's looking pretty good, I think. I'm probably not, I don't know if I'm going to go for full polish. Like, you're not going to be able to see through this or anything like that. I don't think. I don't think you won't be able to see through it, but it might actually show shadows a little bit. It looks like there might be some shadow. I don't know. I'm going to polish it up. We'll see what's going on. Do a little bit of, I'm going to get some new sandpapers. Fresh sandpapers for the occasion. Start with some 600. And go from there. Put some water in there first. Let's slow that down. So like I said, first thing I want to do is just kind of, this may not really be the best sandpaper for shaping. I may actually come back with a tool. No, it's okay. Thought it kind of had like a flat lip. Oh, come on, get in there. Yeah, I need to, 600 is really not low enough. I got that chatter, that chatter was going on. And I'm going to need a little bit, I'm going to need to bring out the big guns. I want to take a peek at this real quick. Well, actually, I'm taking care of it. I think 400 is going to be better. I don't know. It seems to be doing fine. Okay, never mind. I take it back. I must have gotten, I was basing my opinions on how I felt, the feel of that surface before I took that final pass. That final pass actually did pretty good. It's hard to get like way down in there. And this paper's not the greatest for this. I feel like the bottom, it's kind of hard to. So we'll do as good as I can, but I think that might be pretty good. I'm not going to worry so much about the very bottom. I just don't really think people are going to look. I don't know. Some people might look deep, but hopefully they'll just recognize that I was being efficient. Not lazy, not at all. Efficient. That's called being efficient. All right, so then we'll dry that part off. And then we'll skip over to the green. The green's going to get in there. What is this? The Zona paper is going to conform to shapes and stuff a lot easier than that silicon carbide. Really, that's one of the things that I really like. If you can get to the point where, you know, all you got to do to get really like the tool marks and all that kind of the rougher stuff out with like one grit, like 600 grit silicon carbide, and just move on to your Zona papers, it's going to make the sanding process just way faster and easier. Because those coarser grits just take a little bit more to kind of get it, you know, once you get to the polishing part. Because you're really not taking off a whole lot of material with the Zona. The green one will take off some material, but technically they say that this is 600 grit, and it takes off a whole lot less material than silicon carbide, if 600 is actually what it is. I feel like it's more like 800, but according to the specs, the official specs, I think the green is supposedly 600. But sandpapers, you know, it can have the same grit, but the way the type of particle or the type of abrasive that it is can act very differently. There's lots of different types of grits out there, and they all kind of remove material at different rates. The other thing is how densely packed things are, and there's a whole bunch of science that goes into sandpaper. And so sometimes you really can't just say, well, it's 600 grit and really feel like it's like equivalent to something else. Make sure I'm not missing any chats. So have I turned anybody on to giving hollowing a try? I know that it was chattering and doing some stuff, but it's just kind of a matter of, like I said, playing sometimes with the speeds of the lathe. That can kind of change the, you know, how chattery things are, and finding the right, you know, angle, whether, you know, pushing or pulling, maybe even tilting the tool just a little bit to kind of get the right cut. In general, you're going to get the best cut. Let me give you guys, you know, I was kind of tilting it and messing around doing some stuff, but I'm just going to use a regular. I'm not going to use the hollower because you got kind of a bigger cutter. It might be a little easier to see what I'm showing with the regular one. But so I was kind of going in there and turning it, but it's because I was trying to avoid the side of the blank hitting the bottom of the tool bar. So I had to kind of come in and be weird a little bit. But if you don't have to worry so much about this bar, really you're best off coming in just dead flat. You're going to get a lot better cut. And I was kind of doing that on this side. I didn't turn it as much, and I was getting a little bit better cut coming on the inside. Plus I was giving it better support, kind of. It was a little bit firmer pressing down onto the toolbar, and it just kept everything from vibrating, because you got the blank wants to kind of vibrate, you know, especially the farther out you get from the mounting surface, or whatever actuation of the mounting. But also, you know, how far the tool is hanging over. There's all kinds of things going on, but the more rigid everything can kind of stay, the better off you are. So if you can get kind of a, like I said, it's probably honestly easier to start with like a 3-inch blank and have a bigger hole that you're hollowing. that would probably be where I'd recommend if you want to get into hollowing to start, is maybe like a 3-inch blank. It's not very big, doesn't have to be very long hanging off or doing anything, but that'll give you, I think, a little bit better, a little easier time with that chatter, because it gets a little bit unnerving when it's chattering like that. And you know, the reality is, it could, you know, depending how thin everything is and all that stuff, the forces, you know, it could come apart, I guess. But so it's not a bad idea to wear a face shield when you're doing this kind of stuff. But you know, typically it's going to take a good amount. And I wasn't like pressing hard at all. Like I was just kind of giving it a nice pull, taking small cuts, and it should be pretty fun if you give it a shot. Chad's ornament stream made you try it. Nice. 2 hollow form ornaments. Nice. Yeah, it's a little, you know, it's odd. If you're used to, you know, spindle turning, it's a little different. And like, you know, like the first one is maybe a little nerve-wracking, but the more you do it, you know, like anything, the more comfortable you get, the more you see, okay, it's making noise at me, but it's really not a problem. I just have to try to kind of find the least amount of chatter and all that kind of stuff. And another way to go is like go for like almost like a bowl. I mean, that's, you know, it's not much different. Hollowing and bowl turning is kind of similar, you know. This is, you know, again, this is not very deep for like hollowing, but you don't really have to. I don't feel like you need to be hollowing some deep jar, vase, you know, whatever, to enjoy the process of the hollowing. And if you get into it, you know, you might find that you really like hollowing. And they got, you know, all those kind of setups where you got the arms. Like I got the elbow tool from Tim Yoder. That thing works pretty good. I think it's Tim Yoder. It's the elbow, where it like mounts onto your lathe, or it like mounts to your tool rest and all that kind of stuff. Maybe even the tailstock. I can't remember for sure. I've done a few larger items with that. It's definitely fun though. Yeah, I don't really think this is going to be very see-through. I mean, maybe if you shined a bright light at it, you know, you might be able to see the little dongle thing on the inside, but I don't really think that's going to be a feature. I was trying to go for kind of thinner, but I always kind of chicken out when I'm like hollowing and I'm like, ugh, how thin do I want to get? Because you can make wood a lot thinner. I highly recommend, don't try to get like a 16th inch, you know, hollow form width on resin, because it doesn't have the tensile strength to stay together when you're, you know, exerting all those forces on it. You know, there's no fibers kind of holding everything, gluing everything together and giving you that tensile strength. So you're not generally going to get as thin as you maybe would. You're not going to get as thin as if it was a piece of wood. That's for sure. And that, you know, that's another way to go. You can just hollow wood. I mean, you don't have to turn resin. Probably a little bit easier to do wood. Possibly a little bit even easier. Just because of that tensile strength, you're not probably going to get as much of the chatter, maybe. I don't know. I'm not sure about that. All right. Try this guy off a little bit. I think I'm actually going to pull out my microfiber for the outside. It can do the inside too. Yeah, so that's looking pretty good. I don't know, can you guys see much? I'm not sure how much you can see of this thing. I'm gonna scoot back, we're gonna drop it back down again and kind of angle it up. That's looking pretty good. Still haven't managed to screw it up yet. All right, so let's do a little bit of polishing. Let's go for the full polish and see what, I'm curious to see if it is at all transparent. So we'll pull out our magic juice again. Dry my hands off. And we got some blue towels. Nope, that's step 4. There's step 1. That's 6. What's going on here? 3, 2, 1. There we go. Ooh, that's looking good. Can already see that shine. I think step 1 is actually my favorite because it goes from like, I don't know, kind of dullish. And step 1 alone, like I've seen people who have like totally finished like pens and different stuff. Supposedly it's like polished. And like, I'm looking at it like, man, step 1, if you just did step 1, it'd be shinier, I've seen that before. So that's step 1 transformation, guys. That's where it's at. Yeah, that looks good. It's looking good. I mean, really? I think that I could probably just stop at step 1 because it does look, just about equally as shiny. And how often are people really going to be looking on the inside too much? But I'm just saying, I could. Step 2. A little bit more speed going here. Okay. Don't think we're going to have time for the handle today. We're already well over our time allotment. Oh, that didn't work too well. I'm going to redo that because that just didn't really seem like... I got it. What's the screen look like? I'm not even paying attention. Oh, that's not too bad. All right, so we're on to 5. I'm going to use, I think I'll use these microfiber things for the inside. It's not really a whole lot for it to get like wrapped up on. All right, so step 5. Okay. And step 6. Okay. Then we'll hit it with the big microfiber. The lathe off. I think I got a little bit of magic juice on that rim. The inside there. That's looking pretty sweet. All right, so put this thing away. Pop this guy off. Curious to see how close I was to that screw. Hard to tell. Hold on, yeah, I'm pretty close actually. Whew. So I definitely did get in. I don't know if you guys can see that. There's a hole through there. See it? So I ended up going through. So I will have to mount the eyelet thing into the end of the handle. But let's pull the handle up and just kind of, I mean, this isn't the greatest, but let me get what's going on here. I got to pull the camera around here real quick because I can't see what I'm doing. Okay. Whoa, that thing's moving. Hold on. Oh, too high. Okay. Zoom out. Oh, zoom out. Okay, so we've got our little bell piece, which I'm thinking this is looking pretty awesome. I mean, it is a little bit, I don't know if you guys can see. Like it's a little transparent. See how you can see the shadow? But I mean, it's definitely not like see-through. And I got a pretty bright light coming in from that side. But even on the top, I mean, this is kind of what I was going for. Maybe just a little bit more silver powder than I was thinking in my brain. But I mean, this is pretty close, like where it's a little bit sort of. Now, it's not very transparent from the outside in, actually. That's kind of interesting. It's not transparent from the outside in, but when you're looking through from the inside out, that's where you can kind of see some stuff. So I don't know. It's kind of interesting, but and this blank will look a little bit different. This isn't really awesome, but I think it'll look pretty cool. Sparkly magic. We'll just have to bring this down just a little bit to meet the bell top. Not too much. I mean, like I said, this is bigger than 3/4 inch. So if I had poured a pen blank, I would have absolutely had to switch this bushing out. I think this is like the standard stopper bushing kind of thing. So it's a little bit bigger than 3/4. So 1 inch was a good idea for that. I like the dimensions of all this stuff. And we definitely couldn't have, I mean, I could have done it with a 3/4 inch, but 3/4 is the widest that a pen blank is going to ever be. And it would have been down a little below that. So probably, let's see here. So for the dimensions, it's still, for an ornament, I'm not going to use this whole blank for the handle. But probably, 2/3 of it, something like that, is what I'm thinking. And again, what I want to do is, let's see, so yeah, here's the decorative loops. So the game plan will be, and I don't know if I'm going to stretch this out and do this on the stream next week. I kind of don't think I am. I might try to get a few like videos or something like that and just post them on YouTube Shorts and Instagram Reels. Of a couple shots of me working on this, but the game plan that I have is on the top of this blank, I'm going to basically do the same thing. I'm going to drill out a hole, tap threads that will accept this little doohickey, but also what that's going to do is I'll be able to just mount it on this mandrel if I want. Technically I could do it this way on the mandrel, or I could actually use a collet chuck. That would work. It is actually, I don't know about that. I don't think I have an inch collet chuck. So this is a much better way. So I can mount it on here. We'll have the threads in there. And then on this end, it'll be like on like a pen. It won't be internal threads. It'll be like the external threads, like on the body. So, well, or like, it'll be probably actually, this is a pretty good example. So I'll have threads coming off like this. So I'll just have to take this down. Now, the one thing is I can't use my tenon jig, for the pens, because it's going to be, well, no, I can't. I really can't. That would actually be pretty cool. Get a bushing that's 3/8/16, but anyway, I'm gonna have to take this down to 5/16 or maybe bigger than that, and then I'll be using that die to cut the threads on this, and then those threads will thread into this end, and I think that's going to be pretty cool. So. Yeah, and I don't have a problem stretching, the problem with me doing it next week on the stream isn't that it's not that I don't want to do it, it's that I want to get this thing done and get it sent. So if for some reason I don't get this done next week, this week, then we will do this on the stream. But I'm pretty excited about this. I think it'll be pretty fun. Overall, this was really exciting. This was really fun to make. This part for sure. I think this one's probably not going to take that long either. It's analogous to pen turning a bit, with just a couple drill and some tapping and threads and stuff like that, but not a whole lot to it really. Where I think this was a lot more interesting. I feel. I don't know. What do you guys think about it? Did you guys enjoy? So actually. If I was really lazy, we could just say, it's done. It's a bell. So if you wanted to and didn't want to mess around with the handle, I mean, realistically, this would almost be, I would have had to take it down. I would have rather, if I was going to do this, taken it down to the right diameter for this thing. But you could do that, and you got yourself a pretty cool looking little ornament. Now, the only issue is this hole that I left in there, that I'd have a tough time getting something attached in there. But you could even do it that way. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. I'm excited about this. All right, so let's head over to the intro cam. What do you guys think? Thanks, Jim. I appreciate it. Looking pretty good. So sorry it took so long. We're going to end the poll. So it looks like a lot of people love the finishing process. Love the finishing process. 2/3 to 1/3. Like I said, that included I meant the finishing process, like sanding and all that kind of stuff. So it's fine, Yeah, this bell is really cool looking. I like it. Pretty happy with the shape. Still, I think that the 3/16 bead would have been a little bit nicer. The quarter's good. I don't mind this. It's pretty good for this size. But I think for what I was going for in my head, I think the 3/16 is more the curvature, the size of the bead that I was kind of thinking in my brain. But definitely it's a silver bell. I think I nailed that part. So finishing, yes. Sanding, no. Yeah. I meant the whole finishing process. Like I said, I cut it into the making, the turning in this case or something. If you're building a bookcase or something like that, the gluing and cutting and all that kind of stuff, or for turning, turning the shape and all that. And then the finishing process would be the sanding and then polishing, or if you want to put a finish on. I'm not totally surprised by that. I think it's a little bit better. The other thing is, like I said, I was coming from a lot of people hate sanding and the finishing part of just woodworking in general. That seemed to be I would say that it would be flipped. 2/3 to 3/4 of the people I hate sanding and I hate the finishing process. I like the building and all that kind of stuff in woodworking. I think it's a little bit better on a lathe. You don't have to you're not using this vibrating machine that kills your arm and all this stuff. There's a little bit more and it's a bigger, way more if you're building something kind of larger for just woodworking. But for turning, it's a little bit better. I don't mind it as much. But anyway, guys, so thanks for joining the fun, for all you guys that stuck around for the full 4 hours of streaming. I appreciate it. And it shouldn't take you 4 hours to do this. I kind of messed around. I was kind of how is this going to work? I'm not entirely certain in my brain. Sometimes the first thing, and I haven't done this for a while, this type of a thing. But I think it's much easier to think about this I'm going to make a bell stopper kind of thing. And at that point, a lot of people know how stoppers work, right? The mounting and all that stuff. I really fully had not even thought about how this was all really going to work in my brain. Really how are the steps going to go? But it's a stopper, in a sense. I think that's the simplest way to do this. So if you want to make a bell, I think that, you know, it's not going to take you 4 hours to do this kind of thing. Especially now that you've seen it, hopefully. It should be a little bit quicker. I was very much taking my time though, so I like to take my time sometimes. So anyway, guys, so like I said, next week, if there's for some reason, if I'm not able to finish the handle part during the week next week, then we'll have to do the handle on the stream. But I'd rather try and get that done earlier next week, and then we can do another, you know, casting resin stuff on the stream next week and make something, you know, do whatever. So anyway, guys, no worries about the time. Kept you company. That's good. Well, I'm glad. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully, you know, it'll inspire you to give a bell a try too. Really, they're fun. I was really excited when like I said, I was like, what do I do this year? You know, what haven't I done in the past? And the bell, part of what inspired it, I actually won a bell on the Ornament, you know, from the Ornament Challenge from Mike Lexa. He did a really fabulous job on that thing. And so ever since then, that was like maybe 3 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago. That I won that, and it's like a full-size bell. It's probably about the same size, maybe a little bigger than this one. Not an ornament per se. It's more just kind of a tabletop type deal, like a real bell. But that also, I was like, oh, that'd be really fun to make one of these sometime. And also, don't forget, guys, they got the stainless bottle stoppers. Has the new little ornament. What do they call these things? Just so you know when you're looking, decorative loop is I think what they're still calling these. And I'm pretty, Turner's Warehouse has these guys, and you can get them at stainlessbottlestoppers.com. But these really are a much better option than their old decorative loops for like Christmas ornaments like this. So check those guys out. They got them in both brass and stainless. Show you a brass one before I go, since I have them. And again, they're 3/8/16. One other thing to remind you or mention, I guess, also about this. I mean, obviously, you can tap threads in the blank and just go for it. Throw that thing on the lathe. Now, I will say that is also another thing that may have reduced the chatter using, you know, the insert itself. That might also reduce some of that chatter that you get when you're hollowing. So just keep that in mind as well. But you don't have to. You can just tap threads in that blank, chuck it up and go. You know, that it works. So let's go to the overhead real quick here. So here's the brass. I got both of these guys. So pretty cool. It's a nice option to have, because I would actually use those things. Like, I think I pretty much use them every year. The old version of them, and these are way better. So you got the bell. Did he do a bell last year? That's cool. Yeah, and I've won 2 of his pens also. I actually have one of them, I think. Yeah, I got one of them here. This was the first one that I won. And then he did a bespoke ball, roller ball. So not a fountain pen, like a custom pen, whatever, kitless, whatever terminology. But this is, I still have this guy. I keep it in the shop. I love this thing. This thing turned out awesome. So that was the first one. I won this pen, and then, and he's got, look at how fancy this is. I got a fancy box with it. I keep it in the box so it's nice and dusted. But I got the Christmas pen, and man, this pen that he made was ridiculous. Like, ridiculous, guys. I'm pretty sure if he would have sold that at a show, I feel like I ripped him off. I feel like I ripped the Ornament Challenge off, because if he could have sold that thing for multiple hundreds of dollars, I think, at a pen show. Like, easily. It had all kinds of crazy stuff. He had like clear part at the end with like a Christmas tree in the, I don't even know. I make blanks for a living, guys. I do resin casting, make pen blanks. I don't even know how he made the blank. Like, it was crazy. So anyway, keep your eyes peeled for Mike's stuff. He does really good stuff, so I can't wait to see what he makes this year. And I always steal them. I always outbid Carrie at Turner's, and she hates me. She's like 2 years in a row I've won all the stuff that she was bidding on from him. So anyway, don't bid on the Mike Lexa things. But I'm looking forward to it. So again, don't forget, guys, November 14th is the due date, which means that not to ship it by, but they have to have it by for your ornaments. There's lots of stuff, so I'm going to drop that link one more time in the chat just to make sure you guys know. If you need any of the info, because there is like a form you got to fill out and there's some stuff. So make sure to go and check out all the steps that you need to follow if you haven't sent your stuff in yet. Go over there and they got all frequently asked questions, and they got like the categories listed out and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, guys, like I said, either we'll finish the handle for this next week or we'll do some resin casting, most likely resin casting stuff. Keep your eyes peeled on like the shorts and the Instagram reels. I'll try to throw some kind of a video together if I do the handle beforehand. But either way, we'll hang out next weekend on Saturday. So anyway, guys, have a great rest of the evening, and I'll see you guys on the next stream.